Let's try this again. Good grief.
What killed you?
Okay. Hey there, let me get you invited in real quick. After I do this, add
Why did I
products.
almost get struck by lightning?
It's in the clothing one. We'll do that. And yep, it's right there at the top. And then we'll go here. And we are going to pin, where is it? Where's my shirt? Well, it's in that one. Hold on, this thing is being weird. Give me 1 second. Where is my fuck off shirt? Unless they sold out. They may have sold out. Oh, they sold out. Well, then. Hey there. Hey, Bequest. Let me get you in here, Michael. Let's see. Add to guest. There we go. Hey, Yuov. How are you, my friend? Whew. I have a cat on my lap right now.
Oh my
I have
God.
hair in my nose.
That.
That's good. Well, thank you, Bequest. Today we are having Michael. I'm gonna let him pronounce his last name for you before I try pronouncing it again and fumble it because oh God, I feel horrible. I feel horrible. But then again, I always feel horrible when I massively mispronounce somebody's last name because I have one of those last names, and it's bad. Let me
Is
get
it not working?
Well, I can hear you.
Oh, well, that's great. But why can't you see me?
So it's something on your end. It is one of the settings. I know that Ethan had the same exact problem a week and a half ago where he had to figure out something. It was some sort of setting on his end that he had to change. But welcome in, everyone. Hi, Tom. I see you sneaking in. But we have Michael on.
Oh, duh. There it is. Oh. Saving. Cool. Hi.
Here we go. Hi. We have a face.
Hello. We have a face. I'm the real person.
You are. That's what we love.
Yeah.
We love real people here because we are kind of tired of all the fake shit going on in our world and all the fake shit going on in our government that's been going on since, let's just say, the 1940s.
That's fair. You can even go further back, but yeah.
Well, oh, I know we can go way further back, but we'll just throw that as the modern day. What has led up to now, we'll start in the 1940s because I can
Sure.
tie it to the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even last year. So I mean, it's all tied together, and it's kind of we've talked about this before, and you know what, our system is perfectly set up for exactly the outcome we got, but it was also perfectly set up for the exact opposite outcome where we really truly followed the democracy that they wanted for us. But knowing that there was always a chance for our federal government to become corrupt and fall like it has, then it was always on the states to take their power back, which is why I'm now getting involved, because it's like, you know what? I didn't want to ever get involved in politics. I didn't want to. At 14, my mom still to this day, you should have been a lawyer. You should have been a lawyer, Shadi. You wouldn't be so good at it. You can debate anybody. I know, Mom. I just didn't want to do it for a living.
Totally fair.
And now here I am going, okay, well, I'm back at Harvard Business Law, and I'm taking their civics courses. I'm taking their constitutional law courses. I'm taking their medical courses because they're all available free online. And then you pay $150 for their certificate.
That's beautiful.
That was their big FU to the Trump administration last summer, telling them that they had to change their curriculum. They decided to make as much public as possible, as available for free. You just pay $150 at the end of the course to say you actually took it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of alternative options nowadays, right? And tying that in with what's going on here in Arizona, we even back it all the way up to ESAs, right? I'm a product of public schools, right? I'm a big time product and believer of public school systems. I'm a big believer in it takes a village to raise a child. I'm a, half Filipino, half Mexican. So I'm first generation born in the US, and having mom and dad who are each one of seven, I'm used to being around a lot of people and having a lot of people call you out as well. So you can't really hide. And I think that also helps bring to, my ability to say, like, I can work with all kinds of different people because of the fact that, like, you got so many different personalities running along, and you got to still be able to talk. And when it comes to education, like here in Arizona, unfortunately, we keep trying to attack public schools and making them out to be this demon, this horrible, thing that exists. And yet, what's the alternative? Oh, we'll do ESAs and then blanket give people $2,000 or less of automatic approvals, to the tune of now we're at over $1 billion of wondering what's happening there. And our current treasurer, just to throw a little nuance onto that, she's being sued by Channel 12, I believe it is, for not releasing public ESA data, right? So,
for
so good thing.
2025, because they have it all the way up to 2024, but she refuses to release last year's. Yeah, I was reading all about this. It's why empowerment scholarships were on my list of things we were talking about today. Like, you don't understand. I write down lists, and then I take notes, and I have questions.
Totally.
I have questions. But that's the reason why, like, I asked you yesterday, what do you want to make sure we cover today? Because I have all these questions.
Sure.
Two-party system, beautiful. But I also want to address education, because they dismantled our Department of Education and they put it under the Department of Labor. That's very telling if you ask me. That means we don't want to educate your kids. We want to turn them into laborers as soon as we can.
Well, think about it. Nowadays, with the advent of AI, what is going on in our society? What are we dealing with? We've got jobs that are now being repurposed because you no longer need marketing executives. AI can whip it out in 2 seconds. You no longer need web developers because AI can do that same exact thing. So now we're at a place where, which we've always known, which is technology is surpassing our humanity, and we have to find someone to blame. So who's always the typical blame one? People who are brown, uneducated people. And it is mind blowing that we think that it's, immigrants or illegals that are taking our jobs, when the reality is the jobs that are available at that wage that they're paying at, no American in their right mind who understands.
That's it. That's what I keep saying to people is, here's the thing. They're not taking jobs Americans want. Americans are too hoity-toity and too proud to take the jobs that immigrants are doing. They're too proud to be the workers in the field harvesting their crops. They're too proud to be the sewage workers cleaning up other people's shit. They're too proud to be those people.
Yeah.
So we have immigrants who say, I'm not too proud. I'll do it because you know what? It means I can take care and provide for my family. Done. Mm-hmm. Immigrants typically, on average, believe it or not, contribute more to our society, money, financially, than Americans do, especially white Americans. I'm throwing that out there. As a Caucasian, I can say that.
Fair enough.
Did you know, because I throw this out as well, the vast majority of people who are on welfare, so state assistance, are white. Mm-hmm. That's telling.
Well, there's so many other telling things, right? And when you were talking about like tracing all the way back to the 1940s and wondering why we're at where we're at today, it's because we've been bought into this whole pendulum swinging, right? So just follow, even just since 2008, how we've gone from, it's like, oh, we're going to go Democrat, then we're going to go Republican. And each time that swing gets wider and higher. And so now it's so extreme that if you really look at what Donald Trump has done in 2026, right? He's almost socialist, right? He taxed, publicly traded companies and is saying, hey, we want a piece of the pie. When you have Bernie Sanders saying, oh my God, I agree with Donald Trump, makes you want, what is going on here? And it's just a whole, beyond whatever you want to call it, a money grab or anything else that's going on. It's realizing like we're in a world, or in our world as Americans, we're the most abundant country in the world. We're the most productive country in the world, but also we've got a lot of flaws that still need to be addressed, but we don't seem to want to look at them. And to your point and your credit of saying, hey, I never wanted to get involved in politics. I didn't either. I like it. I appreciate it. I want to look at it from afar. My background was being a public school teacher. I taught middle school, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. That was my jam. I loved working with the middle school kiddos because they're like baby sharks and they will tell you exactly what they're thinking and how they feel in that exact moment. So if they don't like you, you know it instantly.
Right.
And 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 from there, moving on and knowing that how badly the pay rate is out here in Arizona, knowing that our cost of living keeps going up, and going, I can't do this to my wife and to my kid and our family. I need to find something else. So I had to leave teaching to then I became, right now I'm a home inspector. So I'm working in the trades, which there's nothing wrong with working in the trades at all. But I had to find something else as a 40-plus-year-old male who's like, what can I do quickly to try to like recoup the lost income without, being rejected after, I think I applied to 500 different jobs, got nowhere. I have a master's degree in education. I've all the other, hooplas over all that. And I just go, we have to find something different that's going on in the world. And tying that in over here with the Arizona Independent Party, it's seeing how, hello, Amanda, I'm still getting used to all this stuff too.
No, it's fine, but that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to have you on, because this helps
Yeah.
with you guys getting used to this platform and being interviewed
Totally.
in this setting. Because
Yeah.
you are the third person I have on. I have somebody scheduled tomorrow. I have somebody already for the 23rd. I have 5 more yeses that I'm getting scheduled for over the
Yeah.
next few weeks. There's a lot of people who are absolutely interested in being interviewed, because you know what? The more
Yeah.
people you can speak to, the more people that you can help. And you are in Arizona. So I have my best friend
Absolutely.
in Arizona. I was
Awesome.
just in Arizona
Okay.
the weekend of the 21st and 22nd, went to the Arizona Renaissance Festival.
Oh, fun.
Blast. She pays $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment that would fit in the inside of my living room and kitchen.
Probably true.
No,
Yeah.
she does. And it's one of those, and she struggles, and she lives in the ghetto, and it's one of those, and the cost of rising keeps going up, and the cost of food. So for her birthday, I did 2 things. 1, I bought her cosplay outfit, and 2, I sent her money for groceries, because I told her I don't want her to go hungry. I want her to make sure her bills are paid. I'll float her money for groceries if I need to. I have the extra income for that time. I don't right now because, I worked 4 hours this week. Why? Well, I'm a massage therapist. You know what insurance companies are no longer doing? As of the first of this year, they're not covering massage because, we have deemed it's a holistic field, so it's not really medical, but you still have to follow HIPAA. You still have to get a degree. You still have to be licensed. You still have to do all these things, but it's not going to be covered by insurance because it's fake medicine.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It is actually the oldest recorded form of medicine, dating back to 21,000 BC. Or sorry, 21,000 BC in Egypt, 16,000 BC in Japan, 15,000 BC in China, 12,000 BC in Mesoamerica. All these different cultures that never had a way of connecting with each other all talk about the same class of healers who healed with their hand. And what they did, they massaged the body to do this, do this, do this. It's the oldest form of healing, but it's not a scientific medical practice.
I totally get exactly what you're saying when it comes to like the massage therapy stuff, because I'm a big believer in that. I'm at 6'4", my body's always just kind of like aching and all that other jazz. Second note, Amanda, totally see that you're an ELA teacher. I tried to reply to you and I typed in awake. So sorry about that. But yeah, no, I hear you when it comes to like the requirements and the wants and the needs, right? To be a public school teacher, not only do I have to have a 4-year degree, then I go to teaching school. So you're in, being taught how to be a teacher and you have to go into debt for that. Then when you get out of it, you're still a student teacher because they want to observe and make sure that you know what you're doing. Then you have continuing ed and all those other things that go along with that, all for a job that in the state of Arizona will most likely never pay over $100,000 a year. Whereas if I want to go into a career of law enforcement, firefighting, other noble duties that are there to protect and help the public, right? Because it's a public service. As a teacher, you're helping raise the youth who are going to eventually become adults.
Right.
That option to help you out there is, literally make more money if I became a sanitation worker.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. You would. In fact, a lot of times they try to pay sanitation workers that much because it's a way to entice people to do that job, because Americans, again, don't want to do it. Yeah. So they have to pay $60, $70, $80 an hour to convince Americans to do this job that immigrants will do for half the price. I mean, it's one of those, I get it, but it's at the same time, we have so many people who are unemployed because they're refusing to work for less than they're worth. And I get that. Believe me, I get that. I won't take a job at a spa making $14.50 an hour and maybe get lucky if I get $20 in tips. Oh, no. Chiropractor, $37 an hour, base, then tips. Why? Because I know my value, I know my worth. I have a massage business, so I do chair massage. I travel around. I may eventually end up coming to Arizona because the group I work with has things in Arizona. So I charge $25 for 15 minutes, and I try to give it to as many people as possible. I also try to keep my, my table wages very, very manageable for the people because, okay, even though we're worth $250 an hour, I know we can't charge that. So for relaxation, 100, and for therapeutic, 150, because somewhere in that scale, you're going to find what works for you. But I pay my therapist what I pay myself, which is half the service commission before any discounts. Why? Because I want to make sure and I want to show my industry you can absolutely pay more than a livable wage and still make a profit as a business owner.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay us less than $15 an hour so you can pay yourself 60.
Yeah. Well, you look at, I mean, transition what you're talking about into like grocery stores, for instance, or even just bigger corporations. It's the outlook of how you structure from the top down. Everyone says, oh, like if the top is doing really well, then the lower should, it's trickle down economy. That phrase that's been out forever and a day, which we know doesn't necessarily work. You look at Costco, for instance, where the CEO is capped at a certain amount and he looks at how much they pay people and you compare it side by side with a company like Sam's Club and you go, matching it all the way down, very similar, very different company culture, very different people, how they feel about being at the job and showing. Even look at like something like Trader Joe's. Have you ever seen an angry employee at Trader Joe's?
No.
They're literally labeled
storming
as
out either.
Yeah. Well, and then I think there was an article that was written one time where they talked about how, like, does the CEO train them to flirt with all the clients because they're just so nice? And again, it's that work ethic of when you're paid a livable wage, you're paid something so that no one's out here trying to say like, I'm going to work at Trader Joe's and go buy myself a Lamborghini. No, I want to just be able to drive my car to get to work, come home, maybe take my kid to a movie, maybe go on a vacation once a year or so.
Right.
Is that such a hard thing to ask
Be
for?
able to pay all my bills, be able to fix the things that break in my house or replace them when they need to be replaced. Like my surface engine light came on again for the 4th time this week. Yeah, we're taking it back in Monday. At this point, they're just kind of fixing everything for free because it's all part of the evap system. We don't know why it keeps breaking. But we have the water heater, the furnace, the this, the that. Every time we do that, we have to dip into savings and hope to the goddesses we have enough money to cover it and that we're not going to be short for the rest of our bills. We haven't had a family vacation in a decade. We haven't done this. We haven't done that. We're barely scraping by. And that should not be the case. Between my husband and I, we make $100,000 a year. And how come when $100,000 a year is the poverty line when the federal government says it's $33,000 for a family of 4 and our state's median income is $46,000 per household of 4? We have double that and we're struggling. Make that make sense. And I know it's the same in Arizona because my friend and I have had that conversation. Make it make sense. How come we're told, oh, it's going down, but we actually just see everything keep going up. Oh, it's the tariffs. Well, then it's this, it's that. It's not our fault. It's somebody else's fault.
So you just segued into is a perfect example of why I'm running as an independent, right? I mean, you think about it for so long, everyone knows from birth, it's like there's Democrats, there's Republicans, there's the elephants, there's the donkeys, it's blue, it's red, right? All that ethos is built into us from when we're such little kids and you're raised into that thing like, well, that's the only way it is. And typically if you ask anyone off the streets, well, so what's a Republican to you? And they're like, ooh, conservative, really good with money, right? Those are like the top 2. And then they're like, Democrats, what do they go with? Social programs and, human rights. Okay. And that's like the 2 big like things that they stand for. Yet nowadays it's just to a point where it's about pointing fingers, throwing mud. And when you throw in the word independent, like what's right here on my shirt, and both parties all of a sudden stop pointing fingers at each other and making the other one look kind of bad, but they take it under the chin.
They take it out on you.
Correct.
Yep.
And here's some fun facts to point out that's happened. I officially filed to want to run for this back in October of 2025. Since that time, there has been lawsuits filed because of the name independent by both the Democrats and Republicans saying you are confusing voters by having the term independent within your party frame. And since then as well, there was a signature requirement that's required. They already set the term and said, hey, by the way, on April 7th, you need 1,200 signatures if you want to be on the ballot, for your primary in August and then your the official general election in November. Great. Okay, we know what we're working with. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, they decided, right, our parties that exist, oh no, we can't do that. Here's what we can do for you. We're going to increase your vote requirement. Now we're going to require you to get it 1771 because that's the correct math. And we made a mistake, but we're going to fix it right now, halfway through this whole process. And by the way, we're going to shorten the time frame for you. It's now due March 23rd, by the way, for your signatures.
Yep.
And all because of the word independent being thrown there. It's like, how do we fix and adjust these rules really quickly?
Yeah.
And the ironic part is, if you think about how Arizona actually classifies what's an independent voter, they're flagged as nonpartisan. They don't have the word independent in there. They don't want that word independent in there. So nonpartisan voters make up the biggest voting bloc actually in the state of Arizona, followed by the Republicans and then the Democrats. But what the two major parties can agree on is that we don't want to give that term independent any more power than what it already has by having the actual numbers to go up against either one of them. So for the first time in our history of the state, you have a couple candidates running for governor. You have a candidate running for treasurer. You have a candidate running for superintendent. You have several candidates running for legislative districts. You have people running for Senate, all up and down. Basically, you have independents who finally realize, hey, I might actually be able to get on the ballot and give people a third choice.
Yep.
Here's the wild part. Prior to the existence of the Arizona Independent Party, do you know about how many signatures you needed in the state of Arizona to get on the ballot?
How many?
45,000.
Woo.
As a Democrat or Republican, less than 6,000. So how is that fair at all? How does that even make it so it's democratic? You have to go reach 45,000 people just to be able to enter onto the ballot?
Hey, wait, Tiger, I'm not going to give you much leeway with that one. Yes, please, go out and use your voice. Vote. Everybody needs to go out and vote. People not voting is exactly why we are in the situation we are in. Thank you, and have a great day.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, go back to what you were saying.
No, and what I'm just saying overall about all this, also it's a very humbling experience.
Mm-hmm.
As a former teacher who taught English and social studies, and I taught social emotional learning, I knew eventually one day I was like, oh, I really do think I want to run for public office. Let me see what that's all about. And in the process of doing this, humbling, myself by asking family and friends, hey, will you guys stand up with this? We all talk about it, right? Dinner talk, table talk, out at the restaurants, wherever we're at, saying, hey, these two-party systems, we need to do something different, right? So then to finally say, okay, let me plant a flag here and say, I'm willing to do this and go about it and reach out and talk to neighbors, talk to strangers, knock on doors, right? Getting out there. The biggest thing that has happened is people are saying, yes, we want this. We are so ready for it. The hard part is, I think, is everyone's just so exhausted from being constantly badgered and belittled and made to think that, well, they're stupid for that and they're idiots for thinking this way. And you know what? Just trust us. We're going to lead you to the promised land.
But that's exactly why we're exhausted, is because we have literally, pull it in the 1940s, for the last 100 years have been forced into this tunnel that most of us want to break out of, but we're not being allowed to because the people on the sides are all the reds and the blues saying, no, 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 no. You can't be free thinkers. You can't have independent thought. You can't have another party. You have to stick to one or two. That's it, red or blue. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Our flag is actually 3 colors. It's not red. It's not blue, but it's red, white, and blue. Independents are whites. We have the right to a 3-party system instead of a 2-party system. That's why we have to sit here and, somebody said, perfect, country over party. I'm a big believer of that because, quite frankly, I don't care what party you belong to. I care what your platform is. I care what your policies are. I care what you stand for and what you want to do, red, white, or blue. Period.
Love that. Have you looked into the 80% project at all? Have you heard about it floating around?
I've not. Okay, let me jot this down.
So keep gonna grab my stuff and we should leave.
Okay, I jotted that down, so I'll look into it.
Yeah. So the 80% project, from what I've followed of it, and it's essentially, what do 80% of Americans agree on? Term limits. How about disclosing where all your campaign contributions are coming from? How about the fact
that all of your accounts, any bank accounts you own, even if they're overseas, we have the right to know you have an overseas account, and we have the right to know when things are deposited into it. You are
Correct.
an elected official. You don't have the right to privacy anymore. I am sorry. Your financial records should be made public knowledge. Why? Because we
Absolutely.
need to know whether or not you're taking bribes.
Well, and then the other part is like they've even talked about, I think like Senator Mark Kelly and a couple of others have what's called like a double blind trust, right? Where you're saying, hey, while I'm in public office, I'm going to put this stuff aside. I've got nothing to do with it, right? Basically, having some integrity. What's really neat in the state of Arizona is they have what's called clean elections. So I made the decision to also sign up as I'm the only treasurer running clean elections and clearly nonpartisan because I don't belong to a party.
Right.
And which I would think is how you would want your money managed. You don't want someone who is going to lean towards Republican values or Democratic values. You want them to lean towards, in my case, Arizonan values, right? All the people here.
You want to think about the people who actually live in your state, not what your party wants, because that's unfortunately how party politics work. You want to actually think about the people in your state, and being nonpartisan is one of the only ways you can go about doing that. And in my opinion, the treasurer should always be nonpartisan. That should be a no-brainer.
Don't try me to
But there's so many no-brainers that we can like. All the problems we have today are because of the whole, in all honesty, right? Two parties pointing back and forth and just making all this theatrics that we have. We can solve a lot of our problems instantaneously if we really wanted to. I mean, even Warren Buffett said, he's like, tell every single senator they can no longer run for another term if they can't get their budget in order, if they can't balance it out. Oh, what would happen then if you lose your job? How about also, Robin Williams, who said, why don't we treat this like NASCAR, and on their jacket, on their sleeve, show every single person who's donating to them. And again, in my case, as the treasurer to, wanting to be, I'm saying I'm doing clean election money, which in the state of Arizona means I need $1,500 donations. It's $7,500 in total. That is not a lot of money, but what happens is they created a commission that says we will fund the rest of your campaign. And in this case, it's $144,000 to get me through the primary. And with that money, it does two things. If you think about it, it gives a limit. It says you can't just go out there and just waste money and throw money and you're basically this bot, person, because I'm sure you're aware in the state of Arizona, we have a small group called Turning Point. And Turning Point,
just a small group only in Arizona.
Yeah. Well, and right now they're throwing their big weight behind trying to fund people to get onto the board for the SRP, which is a power utility.
And here they're lobbying for Club America in all of our schools.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a great idea, but when you know what it's really about and who's backing it, it's oh hell no.
For real. And what I look at when it comes to all this stuff is if we took all that out and went back to making politics boring, went back to just are they doing their job or not? Or here's another one 80% agree on. If you lie as a politician, you are personally held liable.
Yes.
You can be sued. You can be removed from your job. Why not? As a teacher, I'm held liable. Last time I checked as well in the state of Arizona, by teacher. Go ahead.
Listen, if we lied at our job, we would be held accountable. So why do we not hold the people that we elect to positions accountable? Why are they not holding themselves accountable? But that's the other point of things that I like to bring up is just plain old accountability, personal accountability for your own goddamn actions. Mm-hmm. So many people, we'll use our president as an example, do one thing, say one thing, and then go, oh, well, it's okay because it's him. No, it's not. Oh, that's just Trump. It doesn't matter. That's not okay. But we have somebody in position of power who is quite literally, he represents the worst of humanity. And people are lauding him as anointed by, our Lord and Savior. And it's sickening because he sits there and they go on about don't take the God's name in vain. Well, do you not realize that is exactly what you're doing with all of that?
Well, and also, last time I checked, it says, love thy neighbor as you want to love unto thyself. And no one is loving their neighbors as much anymore. Everyone is too busy, pointing it out through social media and the public media streams and everything else, right? But what I can also say is give an example of what he's done to betray America. We're in a war, Tommy. We're in a war right now. There's Americans who are dead.
The Epstein files. They give him the fact that Trump is much more in the Epstein files than Epstein himself. That is a betrayal of humanity. It is not a necessary war. That's just the thing is there's so many wars that, oh, it's necessary. No, it's not.
Well, and see, so this type of like rhetoric that's happening right now,
Yep.
it's all because again, it's someone did something wrong to someone, like whoever's like writing when they write these types of comments or they go about this type of rhetoric, and the question becomes, so what is so wrong in your life then? Because if you're out there and you're thriving, you're doing well, you're not spending time looking and consuming media, you're talking to friends, you're talking to family, you're out enjoying the world and everything else. And I think the biggest thing behind all this is, like you said, accountability. We need to hold, and we should expect our elected officials to be held to a higher standard.
Mhm.
What is wrong with that? I personally see nothing wrong with that at all. And if whether it's the Republican running or the Democrat running, and they end up winning the ticket, then I would hope that they too would want to hold themselves to a higher standard,
Mhm.
because you are being elected to represent all the people, not just your party. How about you represent all of them and do right by them? So uh,
And
that's
that's exactly it. We are Pop Up. We are talking politics today. So I have Michael, and would you please pronounce your last name for me?
Michael Zepeda.
Zepeda. Okay. It's
Yep.
Michael Zepeda. He is running for Arizona State Treasurer as independent. So we are talking about some of the issues going on in Arizona and some of the issues going on in our country overall, because like it or not, those affect the state and would affect the state treasurer.
Well, and here's the ironic part, right? When like even with Pop Pop, you just said like we're talking about politics. Politics are around us whether we want to talk about it or not. Because look at the gas pump and what's happening there. Go look at the groceries and what's happening there. Look at your insurance costs. Look at your taxes that you're having to pay. Look at your wages. Are you rising with the level of inflation that is happening?
Utilities.
Yeah,
That's the other thing we have to talk about is we just found out BlackRock now has monopoly on one of our utilities in our state,
yeah.
and they should not be allowed to have monopolies. Period. What didn't there used to be a law in place? I know the Supreme Court overturned it about monopolies, about how they're constitutional instead of unconstitutional. Pretty sure though, companies still shouldn't have monopolies because that limits the ability for what is it called? The competition. There's actually a specific name for it.
Oh, you're not allowing for any kind of effective competition to happen at all because you are the monopoly. You're controlling the entire debt, essentially, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, and there's actually a specific name for it. And I cannot remember it off the top of my head, but that's what it is. Is they basically it's free market, free market. That's it. When you
Well, they're
have a
not allowing for
monopoly,
free market.
you
Yeah.
don't allow for free market, and you should always have free market. People should have a choice of what utility service they use, of what phone service they use, of what grocery store they use, what gas pump they use, what brand of car they have. We should have those choices. Why? Because that's what free market is giving us the ability to have the choice based on the service provided, the quality, this.
Well, it's the free market and also tied in with capitalism, which is what our country's based on. What is capitalism, right? It's the ability. What will the market bear, right? Someone who wants to buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee versus a Mercedes ML350, right? They're both essentially the same exact car, but one is more like the private school and the other one's the public school option, right? They're different ranges. Same when you go out to eat with the type of groceries that you're choosing to buy, whether you buy organic or regular produce. You are given choices. The idea would be is that we should be allowed to have choices. That's part of what it means to be American. At least that's how it sounds like you and I both agree on that as well. Having met for the first time, it's like, yeah, we deserve choice. You deserve to like have options in life. And when it comes to specifically to politics, it's like, why is it so criminal to want to give an independent voice and option? Why is it so threatening to now say, okay, wait, us as Democrats and Republicans who receive $13 million a year as a donation from the state of Arizona to run our political parties, why are we threatened by an independent? Oh, because we control the narrative, right?
And an independent comes in and they spoil that narrative, and they're like, guys, by the way, you have another option, and what they're telling you is not actually the truth. There's some misinformation involved there. If you want to know the truth, here's the truth. And Tommy, as to your question, I have a question. What gives you the credentials to ask questions? Because I'm not sitting here telling anybody what to do. I'm having a conversation with him so that people know that there are more candidates in their state for positions of what's for political office. There it is, for public office. Period. That's all it is making sure people know they have choices. Tomorrow I have on someone who's running for Arizona House District 1, already had a different person on. So I actually have 2 more people who are also running for that specific seat. So I'll end up having 4 people running for that specific seat on at some point. Great. That lets people know, guess what? You have 4 options. Woohoo! Which one do you like best? That's one you should vote for. Why? Because people deserve to have the choice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Good for you, Tommy. I'm glad that you're a vet. Awesome. Why don't you go to the American Legion and hang out there? You might make a friend or 2.
Welcome to the space. This is like, it's when we're in the court of public opinion, anything and everything is allotted, right? Because it is, in a way, like, this is still our wild, wild west. None of this stuff has been regulated. And the interesting part is, even like, agree with like, what is it, loan the hero, then you shouldn't be allowed to be here. That is the whole thing beyond when it comes to our freedoms themselves, right? The public to actually, I will be held accountable for what I say, good, bad, or ugly, as will you and as will anyone else. We have a format here that allows us to have conversations and say, hey, like, what is happening with our world? And what is happening, whether it's within our cities, our states, our whole country as a whole, or what's going on with the world as well. And, those of you who are watching, I don't see how. Okay. He's just having too much.
That you were talking, Tommy, but that was exactly pointing out is, oh, wait, then you shouldn't be here. But wait, that's freedom, the choice to be here. You're choosing to be here. And I want to know exactly what's childish about the topics. We are talking about, okay, let's see. We are talking about his platform. We will be talking about the Colorado River Water Management Plan, because that's very important. The water in Colorado River is drying up, period. And so they have to make sure that they are budgeting the water properly, and then they have to make sure that they have the right amount of money going towards the project to make sure that the water stays clean, it stays, potable, it stays this, it stays that. It's so that way at no point in time does the limited amount of water they have become none. So we're also talking about, having him break it down for us. Exactly what does a treasurer do? Because I had somebody ask me yesterday, what does a treasurer do? And they were honest. They did not know. And I'm like, well, look at the name. Think of pirate treasure, right? Money. Their job is to manage the finances of the state, to manage the money, to keep that treasure safe and secure, so that way it's going to the right people, the right places, and it's being allocated properly and not being used for somebody's personal gain. Perfect example, back to Yi and the Empowerment Scholarship account, where she has allowed, the Rolexes and the Lamborghinis count for less than 1% of the purchases. Confirming Rolexes and Lamborghinis have been bought with that account, because there's no cap on luxury purchases. So if you want a Lamborghini, congratulations, somebody actually got a Lamborghini.
Yeah. So literally, the question, from what I'm understanding correctly, is, so what does the treasurer do? Number one, it's like investment management, right? It's not here to go take big swings with the state funds. We're managing over $32 billion in assets, as far as cash is concerned, and then also our land trust. So that is like unincorporated areas within the state of Arizona that are available for purchase. Okay. And within that as well, so cash management is also part of the job, debt management. So it's both, right? Cash coming in, managing certain debts, financial reporting, and then also custodial account management. So basically, if like people pass away, being able to like make sure we get that out to the right people that it goes to, but also managing stuff for like public schools. In this case as well, with your topic, like ESA data, ESA funds, getting those distributed back out to the individuals or families that are requesting for reimbursements of funds as well. Overall, the job is boring, as it should be. If anyone running to be a treasurer anywhere goes, oh my God, this job is so much fun, let me tell you all about, they're lying to you. I've been a treasurer when I was in college for my fraternity. I've been the treasurer for a nonprofit health clinic when my wife had asked me to join her on a board. And my whole thing is, it's always been about service and wanting to serve. This role is as well. The treasurer doesn't make a lot of money. They actually which I do appreciate that, because you're not getting to the job to go make a ton of money.
A whole lot of money. They really shouldn't.
It's 70 grand for doing the job. And fun fact is, because I do love to travel, but if I were to leave the United States, I do have to put in and make sure that they're all made aware that I'm traveling outside of the United States, and I have to get a permission in order to do that if I want to, because you're kind of managing the state's funds, which again, responsibility, being responsible with people's money and taking that seriously. It's stewardship, right? I am big on stewardship and serving people and wanting to help out. So that's where it all kind of comes in for me, is it's just working with the team that I would be responsible for and making sure that we're managing the state's debts, we're maintaining the credit rating as well. I don't know if you like listen to different podcasts or whatnot, but it was like today on this podcast I listened to with Lulu Navarro, she had on the governor of Illinois, and he was talking about how when he inherited the office, that the previous administration, they had let their credit rating go, or just sunk down. They allowed their debts to get all high, right? This is not proper management. So part of my job, and tying it into Arizona specifically, right? Like you said with Miss Yee, she is she's being called out for all kinds of different scenarios that she's dealing with, and we can go through all that whole list, but I don't want to give her that any kind of credit other than to say look into it if that's something that you're interested in looking into to understand where she's at. But the reality is Arizona has term limits. She is no longer allowed to be the treasurer, and we have to elect someone new. So no matter what, this job is open. And the way we elect this job is through an election process, giving Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whoever wants to run, the option to be there. And I think that's important because it allows for and this is the big point here, new blood to enter the office, new ideas, new thoughts to come in. And and it also gives again that limit. Someone can't be there forever.
And they shouldn't be. There should be term limits across the board. There should not be any public office that does not have a term limit or does not have retirement age, period.
The military has it. The presidency has it. Let's hope so, right? And the only two offices that don't essentially have it would be our legislative branch and the judicial branch. Mm-hmm. So 2 out of the 3 offices do not have limits, where the one does.
Somebody was asking how the cats are, so I'm showing off one of them.
Very cool.
But yeah, no, one of the things I had down was like, as of right now, there's a budgetary oversight, the $350 million reported budget shortfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so where's that $350 million?
That's a great question.
Like,
right?
What happened to it? What do you mean you spent money you didn't have? Well, why'd you spend money you didn't have? Okay, that's not okay, because now we are in a massive deficit. And that affects everybody, because now we're going to have to put taxes towards paying off that instead of using that towards what it should have originally gone for, which could have been roads or food or this or the other social services that it's used to fund. So again, the other thing I was going to bring up was like the environmental social governance, so the ESG criteria used in state investments, and how Ms. Yee has not been using that. Instead, she's just looking at the financial amount. She's not actually looking at the impact to the people around, the air quality, how it's going to affect the government, how it's going to affect the land, the people. None of that. She's just looking at, financially, is it feasible?
Do you know what role she's running for now? Her next one?
I know she's running. She's not running for that. It's the next step up. What is it?
Not next step up. It's a lateral move, but take a guess what Miss Yee is running for.
I want to say governor. No. I'd have to search it up. I know she was running. I just didn't write it down.
Sorry, I have to lean in for this one. State superintendent.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, and think about the infighting that is happening within the party itself, because they currently have Tom Horn, whether you like him or don't like him.
I said she wants to oust him.
That's why she's running. Well, she's also sponsored by Turning Point.
I know she is. That's one of the things, like, I was doing research on her last night before I went to bed, and I was looking at, okay, she wants to oust this person, she wants to oust this person. She's working with Turning Point USA. I'm like, oh, she's one of them. I don't like her.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, I don't have anything with me that I can use to look it up, so I can't do that. So it's not that I'm ignoring you, sweetheart. It's I can't do what you've asked because I don't have my tablet with me. And that's just it is drying up to a degree. There may be some being sold, but here's the thing is, the fact of the matter is, over the last year, Arizona has seen a significant shortfall when it comes to its water. And by that I mean the water, rainwater coming down. It's having a shortfall with rainwater itself, which is why it's drying up, which is part of the reason why the Colorado River Water Management Plan is so important. Because yes, part of their trade is they do actually have agreements with New Mexico and Texas when it comes to water. That is something, yep, you're right. They have that trade agreement. But here's the thing. There's also in those agreements, if you read them, like I said, I was doing research last night until 3 o'clock this morning because I couldn't sleep. There's actually, in those agreements, there is actually a addendum that states that if the water reaches a certain point, they don't sell it out. They hold it in Arizona. They don't release it, period. So understand that there is a contingency just in case that it hits a certain point. Those agreements they have with those states, they won't sell the water. It stays in Arizona. So I do know
our actual bigger issue.
I can't bring up facts and the websites I use because I don't have my tablet with me. My husband has it at work with him. He worked today. It's actually his tablet. I just use it a lot. That's why I call it my tablet.
Fair
It's
enough.
a wife thing.
So much
You're right. Arizona does come first when it comes to state politics. You're right. But you also have to keep in mind that Arizona, how it's funding a lot of its programs is those sales of water. So you're saying, okay, stop selling it, hold the water, but then we're not going to have the money in order to finance the roads. Oh my God, the amount of construction I've thrown through when I was in Arizona. So I know you guys have a lot of money being sunk into your roads because you're repaving them, you're redoing them, you're adding, intersections and roundabouts and this and this. So you're saying you want your roads to decay. Okay. You're saying you don't want your schools to be funded. Okay. You're saying you don't want this and this because you want to hold on to your water. You have to understand that's why the water management plan is so important. So that way they can make sure they budget properly so that they're able to keep the water as much as possible in state while still maintaining all of the programs they have.
Yeah, and then knowing as well, like, right, the Colorado River supplies water to 7 different states as well, and we're all like going for that big grab of how much do we get of it, knowing that also the amount of water that's coming down is definitely dwindling as it goes, and then trying to figure out ways. I mean, there's been discussion of doing a desalination plant down in Rocky Point, and that's down in Mexico essentially. So, and then to actually figure out a way to then upplumb water to come that way. There's discussions of doing some other kind of like piping from the Midwest and bringing water in all the way from over there. I mean, bottom line is water is a big deal, Tommy. You got to give Tommy love. The man is active in this conversation, and I respect it to the point that Tommy should consider running for public office.
Yeah.
Right? You already served us when you went to Vietnam, and thank you for that. But as well, like, use your voice to get out there and try to make a difference in the world as well. And I feel like that's bottom line what all this stuff boils down to. The reason why I am running is I have a son, and I want him to see that dad just didn't sit by and watch things and complain that, oh, it's their fault, it's that fault. Like, I jumped into the fight and I asked people around me to see, like, how do they feel about it?
And we understand that, Tommy. And here's the thing is, you sit here and you say we shouldn't be allowed to have a public conversation. We shouldn't be allowed to be on here because you said that earlier. But keep in mind that all we're trying to do is help educate people. I love the fact that you're in Arizona and that you're active and you're actively participating and you're pointing things out. And understand, again, it's not that we were ignoring you. It's I don't have my tablet to pull up everything I looked at, to go, hey, go to this website. If you scroll down to this part of it, you can see exactly what I'm referencing. I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that. I know enough and I remember enough about reading it to let you know that there are contingencies in place to make sure Arizona has its chunk of its water that it needs, period. Yes, I do know, like he said, they are trying to find other ways to fund getting water in. They're trying to find other ways to fund various projects so they don't have to, because keeping in mind the amount of citizens they have and how many citizens need that water, they're not going to try to shortfall their own citizens. They're going to try to make sure that y'all are taken care of first. But there's a lot of little cogs. There's a lot of moving pieces we have to keep in mind that we are not necessarily aware of.
Nice.
We have a lot of people in our group who are fighting cancer, believe it or not. and my heart goes out to all of you. I truly believe that a lot of people are getting cancer from the water that they're drinking because they, perfect example, I have commented and made comments to my state's water sanitation company, and they have come back and said, well, the levels in the water are adequate for human consumption, meaning that they are too high for animal consumption, they are too high for children consumption, but they're adequate for adult human consumption, assuming that the adult is 6 foot and 150 pounds. Guess what? I'm neither of those. So the amount of chemicals in our water, and it doesn't matter what state you're in, because perfect example is the White River. I get water from the White River. The White River is contaminated all the way from the top down. That is, and I have friends in other states who they have called and they have been told the same thing when it comes to their water sanitation. Oh, their water is adequate for adult human levels. Yeah. Meaning that the chemicals that are causing cancer are in there. It's just not enough for them to be concerned about because that would cost money to fix it.
That's funny. Orlando's asking about the water's not safe to drink. Have you not seen, there's plenty of reports where they'll even check bottled water, and the bottled water has the PSAs, the forever plastics in them, that they, things are contaminated. And
was in her, don't drink the tap water. Here, don't drink the tap water. You got to drink it out of the Brita filter. Period. The cats, they get it filtered twice before it goes into their fountain, which filters it third time. Why? Because I am so paranoid these days about all the chemicals in the water.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, Tommy. And that's just it. Is it's in our groundwater, it's in our food, it's in everything. Because what was it? 2017 is when they rolled back the law that stated that in addition to paying a fine of at least $150,000, it was mandated that companies clean up their chemical and oil spills. Back in 2017, that was rolled back as unconstitutional after a very certain person got to seat 2 judges into the Supreme Court. And a lot of issues started happening after that. We can go into that later. But it was back in 2017 that they overturned that. So back in 22 and 23, when Ohio had some really big oil and chemical spills, they just paid the $15,000 fine and left it because that's all the fine is now. They rolled it back so that companies and corporations wouldn't have to pay out money to clean up the damages they did to our environment. And in turn, the people and the animals are paying the price because we are the ones getting sick.
Yeah. So in the spirit of listening to Orlando, the wanted me to speak some more, what other questions did you have for me that you wanted me to address? Because I know we talked a little about the water. We've talked about what the role of the treasurer is. I also talked earlier on, describing like what has happened, with the independent movement itself. I can actually give you, let's give people a little bit more history on that as well, because I think it's a little bit important as well. So back in 24, when Trump was running, he had a competition, and that was the No Labels Party representative at the time, Mr. RFK Jr., who now runs MAHA, right? So No Labels is an official party that was recognized all throughout, all 50 states. And in Arizona, they did recognize it. So our Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, acknowledged that No Labels exists as a party. However, he then sued the party last year saying, you know what, you guys only ran one candidate. You're making a mockery out of parties. We're going to shut it down. Here's where it starts to get a little fun with things. And there's no cabal with this. It's just the timing of it all. Former mayor of Phoenix, he was the mayor back in the 90s. His name is Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson ran as a Democratic mayor. He literally won by 20 votes. This guy has been all about serving the people, helping people get out there, and wanting to open up competition to everyone because he believes, he has this ethos of being what's called the optimistic American. Paul then works with the different constituents that he has and the people that he's known over the years to try to open up primaries to allow people to get on the ballot by allowing for open primaries, meaning if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, nonpartisan voter, you can sign for any candidate to help get them on the ballot by having, again, open primaries. That got shut down not just once, but twice, because again, both parties do not want actual competition, right? So then you tie that in with what happened in 24, And now No Labels being sued within our state reaches out to Paul and goes, hey, we know you were doing this whole thing for open primaries. How would you feel about running this branch of the No Labels party? So he takes over. He's running it, says, fine, I'll run candidates up and down it. But he took a poll and realized, like, you know what, instead of being called No Labels, let's label ourselves, since we're our own little chapter, the Arizona Independent Party, right? Because it's still providing independence, because we're saying, hey, you can have a candidate that believes in pro-life, pro-choice, pro-guns, not pro-guns, right? We're going to give you the independent choice to just be a candidate to run. And if you meet the signature requirements, you go through backgrounds, you want to get vetted, then you can see where you're all about. May say about the man running for office about what he believes. Oh, sorry, that threw me off. Anyhow, so from within that, as an independent member, then this party, formed within the whole state. So now it is, and here's the fun part for politics. Arizona Independent Party is recognized by the Secretary of State. If you go to sign a petition, it'll say AIP, which stands for Arizona Independent Party. However, to register to vote, you have to go to the Arizona MVD website. That's our DMV is linked up to run where you would register as Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, etc. They won't recognize the name change for AIP. It still lists as No Labels. So remember when I told you we've been sued from the beginning about confusing people with the independent part? Talk about confusing. Right. If you're like, hey, I want to see people running as independents, how do I support that? Who the heck's this No Labels thing?
Right.
There's the confusion there, and they're suing us based on that. And what I wish I had, my attorney has it, and I need to get a copy of it, but it's the statement from the Democratic Party flat out saying that they don't want to give people choice, essentially. They don't want independents to have a choice. They control the landscape. They control the environment.
See, and that is part of the problem, where we have that two-party system that is trying to eliminate choice and say, oh, you can only choose between this candidates or these candidates. We don't have any other options. Why? Because we don't want it. That's the problem. It doesn't matter what you want as party leaders. It's what we want as people, and we want more options.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, right? What is wrong with options? Choosing the type of car you want, choosing the type of food you want to buy, the location of where you want to live. Why not also choose your different politicians? Here's one who is, trying to run as an elected official saying, I'm doing clean elections, no corporate money, no PAC money. Turning Point can't buy me. Neither can any other, private equity group if they wanted to. It's literally, you can donate and anyone can donate, right? Up to my max is $220. That is it. I cannot take more than $220 from an individual, and I am capped at getting $36,000 in total donations. So my campaign has a fixed amount. There's no limitless amount of spending over here.
And here's the thing, I think all campaigns should have a fixed amount. Why? Well, I'm not sorry when I say, if you can't figure out how to get elected on a budget, that's a problem. What are you going to do with your state? Just throw money everywhere? If you were said, okay, the max for a campaign across the board, regardless of your party, is $50,000. Okay, people can donate up to $250 personally. Done. You know what? Congratulations. Good luck with that. Hope you get it. You don't get big corporations. You don't get small corporations. You don't get party money. You get individual money, regardless of what party you're running under, because that's how it should be. It really should be of the people for the people, not of the parties for the parties.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens with clean elections, right? If I get enough $5 donations from people within the state of Arizona, then that means once I get that $1,500, the state's going to turn around and say, hey, you know what? We're going to help fund your campaign with a limit. Here's the limit. You don't get more than that. Now, those up to $220 donations, that can come from anyone. So like my mom who lives in San Diego, she can donate to me. My friends who live in New York or, in Texas, they can donate to the campaign itself, but a max of $220. They can't go be like, hey, bro, here's $5,000. No,
that doesn't work.
We need limits. We do. It's like when it comes to this, especially our politicians, why is it so mind-blowing, or why is it so out there to say, hey, I want to give you guys boundaries?
Yeah, I want you guys to know that you can do it within a set limited scope. Why? Because that's what you're going to have to do when you're in office. You're not going to have an endless amount of everything to go through. You're going to have X, Y, and Z. That's it. Make it work. If you can't make it work, then you know what? You probably shouldn't be in that position.
Well, in what we forget as the masses, right, as people, even within the chat that's happening right now, right? Every single person that's commenting, every single person that's watching, their one vote as a whole adds up, and that's where it makes the difference. But if there's enough noise created to build division, then all of a sudden everyone is caught in their own wheel, in that cogged wheel, and they're like, oh, whatever, it's just the same, growing up as a kid, I would hear both my parents when it came to voting times, like, okay, who's our best choice out of the two bad options that we have?
Right. Who's the lesser of the two evils?
Yeah.
I heard that all the time. Even when started voting when I was 18, the lesser of the two evils. Why? Because that's just how politics went.
I mean, and think over the last, let's be as bold to say this statement, over the last 30 or even 40 years, how many times have we had actual independents running? You had Ross Perot, the Texas billionaire who ran. You have Bernie Sanders, who obviously leans more towards the Democratic standpoint, but still, focuses on being an independent out there. You kind of had Kristen Sinema from Arizona, who started off as a Democrat, then leaned more towards being an independent as well. And that's really it, right? For the bulk of our entire, and go all the way back, like Abraham Lincoln didn't belong. And the true independent, the GOAT himself would be George Washington, who didn't have a political party and also chose to leave at the end. He said, you know what? I am done. I believe in this system enough to allow it to do its, true course and give people more choices versus me being the king.
Yeah. And see, and that's why I challenge people is if you have it, and mind you, when I was in middle school, we were forced to read this. Read George Washington's writings, Thomas Jefferson's, James Madison, and John Adams. If you read because they were four of our founding fathers, read their writings and find out. If you read them, you'll know exactly what they wanted for this country because they laid it out. They walked away. They allowed themselves to have term limits. They put them in. Why? Because they understood that it shouldn't just be one person leading. We needed to take turns so that we didn't become another England. We needed to have separation of church and state so we didn't become another England. We needed some boundaries so we didn't become another England.
Yeah. The only faux pas in the founding of our country would be that we stuck with this two-party system. It was an older, antiquated system. We've managed to make it last over 250 years, but the reality is it is an older style system, and they didn't switch over to how, Europe does it or any of the, other modern countries operate. And this is what has led us to what we talked about, in our conversation of these polarized big swings, because depending on what side you fall on that swing, you're like, ooh, I can totally take this right now. But the other people who don't want to take with that is they're like, ooh, no, we're going to pull this way as well. And then you have people who are, then they come out and they finally vote in the mass, and you see such big swings that are happening. And it is unfortunate. It's like, why does it have to be that way when we already know if 80% of the people are agreeing with term limits, if 80% of the people are agreeing with telling us where the money is coming from, if 80% of the people want accountability, what's wrong with giving us that?
Because we're 80% of the people, and that's what we want. That is the vast majority. And you're not wrong, Tommy. But here's the thing is, sometimes it takes having dreamers who want a more ideological, better world to take up the mantle because, well, who else is going to do it?
Well, even with Tommy here, like we're dreamers, but if you ever watched Hamilton, the play, and you listen to the King's song when he's talking about, you'll be back, you'll see. You want to fight me right now? It's all right. I'll bring you back. You'll fall under the knee. We haven't fallen under the knee in over 250 years. And it's because we're dreamers. It's because we push forward. It's because when someone tells me that it's hard or it's impossible, I say, then you know what? Let me try for it. And let's do that.
Every time somebody tells me I can't do something, I purposely do it just to prove them wrong and piss them off. Why do you think I'm doing it?
Yeah. Tommy, we do have 80% of the people who support it. Now, as far as our elected officials, you're absolutely right. They don't necessarily support that because they're the ones in charge. The way to change that, again, is going independent, going with another option and bringing enough people in there to just mess up the political calculus enough that now they're forced to have to, guess what? Work and do the whole thing. You remember back in the 80s and early 90s when they would say, oh, I worked with my friends across the aisle. Yep. I worked with my partners. Democrats and Republicans behind the public, eye. Behind the cameras, they're friends. They talk. They know what's going on. And then when they get onto the, onto cameras, onto TVs, everything else, they're going to act as if that they don't like anybody.
Right. See, oh, you can't piss me off. I'm a true American and fought for my country because I believe in it. Okay, well, did you ever think that maybe this is my way of fighting for my country? Because here's the thing. We are at the point where, let's be honest, look at our federal government. It's pretty much fallen, okay? So when that happens, when your federal government becomes corrupt, the system is actually set up to combat that. Our forefathers made sure it was, because when that happens, then the power falls back to the state level. Thank you for the heart, me. On the state level. So that's what I'm doing is, okay, well, if there's nothing I can do for the federal government right now, why can't I help on the state level? Why can't I start finding candidates who actually have solid platforms, have good voices, who have really good ideas, and get them out to more people? Because maybe that will help affect the change. Because something you have to keep in mind, Tommy, this is something I have to emphasize one more time. It only takes one voice to spark a revolution. So let's do a revolution.
Boom. Sorry, I got this cough that just won't leave
No,
me.
you're fine. It's that simple. And that means, okay, so let's take the power back on the state level. If the state is not working for you and your interests as a human being, if it is not working for the interests of the people, it is working for the interests of the corporations, then we need to take our power back. That's what I am doing this for. I may not be able to go and get a political office myself, okay? Can't do it. I can't run for every office across the states. I can't help everybody. But instead of trying for one office and only being able to help 10 to 15,000 people, what if I interview 50 people and maybe 10 of them end up getting into position, and maybe one of them goes, hey, I attribute some of this to you. Congratulations. That one voice sparked a revolution. And that
Tommy,
second voice will
sorry,
spark
go
a
ahead.
revolution. Go ahead.
My apologies. Tommy, your whole thing to fix the problem first and then make the changes, that's exactly what I've been describing to you right now during this whole speech, right? This conversation that we're having together. I've said it already, right? The two-party systems are already in charge. What happened now with that whole sneak in, if you will, of no labels, it allowed for a third option to actually exist. Now, here's the part where we need everybody to get actively involved. If you know someone who is registered as an independent, you know someone who is registered as nonpartisan, you know someone who is registered as no labels or Arizona Independent Party within the state, since you, Tommy, said you live in Arizona, then go to my site, go to MZ for AZ, click sign the petition. It takes your first name, your last name, date of birth, driver's license number. They verify that you are actually who you say you are, and then you can sign your name to any candidate running who has AIP behind them, Arizona Independent Party, and don't vote for the two main parties. That's how you fire your second shot right there. I fired the first shot already. My first shot is putting my name and my family out there saying, here's an independent choice. So if you, Tommy, really are going to fire the second shot, back it up. Because as it stands, our military, the bulk of them are registered as independents, not Democrats, not Republicans. Over 45% of them equate to being nonpartisan because they're not loyal to parties, they're loyal to the Constitution. That document, that one that you signed for when you took your oath back then. So much fun.
It is. But that's just it is. You have to understand that none of this is to force anything down anybody's throat. It is quite literally to let people know there is another option.
Yes.
And since there's another option and you know about it now, let other people know there's an other option. And then don't vote for the ones that have been pitting us against each other. Don't vote for the ones who are sitting there going, well, in order to keep independence out, we're going to have everybody focus their energy on this fight, and that way they can only vote for us. That's not how it should work. But unfortunately, we've given power to those parties and allowed it to happen. We need to take our power back. And this is how we take our power back, is we get people out there who are suited for the jobs, who really just want to help the people and are nonpartisan, because that is what we need, especially for this position. And
Exactly.
some of the other ones, yeah, sure, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. There are some positions where it 100% you need to be nonpartisan, because that is the only way it's going to work. And I love that, Tommy. I love that you have your own mind. I do. That's fantastic. We all should.
Whew.
And the problem is not everybody uses their mind to think. They don't apply their critical thinking skills. Unfortunately,
Jackson, what
they
was
stick their
the
head in the ground.
entire
They let
of
everything happen
last
around them.
round?
And then when they pull their head out, they go, how did everything get this way? And it's like, well, you decided not to get involved. You decided to take a step back and let the world happen around you. And then when you finally came back outside, yeah, things happened because you weren't participating. You weren't active in it. We all need to be active. I never wanted to be in politics. I never wanted to have political discussions. I wanted to just be able to exist in my privilege and have a happy life. Guess what? I don't get to do that because we don't actually have the privilege we thought we did. Surprise! You don't actually have the privilege you thought you had. You need to get out there and you need to use your voice and you need to vote. And if other people are using their voices, you need to take a step back for a second and hear them. Just listen to what they have to say and go, okay, cool. Some of that registered, some of that didn't. Moving on. You don't have to vote for him. You don't have to vote for all. But if you want things in your state to get better, if you want the things that you're concerned about to no longer be concerns, if you want things to change, then you have to be the one to help affect the change. That is the only way it works for any of us. You cannot expect everybody else to work to change the world while you do nothing, because if you do nothing, you truly cannot expect anybody else to do anything. You can't. Because it's leadership by example. If you are lazy, all you can do is expect the rest of the world to be lazy. If you are hardworking, then you can expect the rest of the world to be hardworking, even if they're not. That's okay, because you know what? You held yourself accountable. That's their job to hold themselves accountable. But if you're lazy and you're not sitting there going, well, it's part of my fault too because I didn't go out and vote, well, hold yourself accountable.
You can't block that.
Yeah.
That's my spiel.
I don't know how.
No, I get it. I respect it. And I thank you for having, the courage to like get yourself out there and talk about this kind of stuff and wanting to interview candidates like myself and other people as well, just to get more perspective, right? You're using your platform to give us all a voice and also to give people the opportunity. Even someone like Tommy, who, I've appreciated the fact that, he's standing strong and holding to his beliefs. And same with someone like Orlando or anyone else who's like jumped in like throughout the chats. It's all right. This is public discourse. This is what we all need and what we should have and expect. There's no reason for us not to want to hold our politicians to being accountable.
Yeah. There's a
like you
standard
said.
that they should be held accountable to for their office. And that's the other thing that gets me is I don't understand why there's a lot of candidates out there that don't want to be interviewed, that don't want to have a conversation with the people, that don't want to get their ideas out there. And it's like, so you just want to rely on the money from your party and everything that you're pushing out there using money instead of actually being involved with the people, answering their questions, having the town halls, having the discussions, actually getting your constituents involved. Somebody pulled up, and the perfect example is Mamdani didn't actually win because he was Democratic or because of the amount of monetary contributions. He won because he had 90 million volunteers on his side.
He's got old.
Believe it or not, for a lot of these people,
90 million volunteers?
Yeah.
And where? There's not that many people in the state of New York. So
it wasn't just New York. People were coming in from out of state to help him. That's the amazing part is people were coming in from other states who had used to live in New York, who went back, who grew up in New York. All these people who lived in New York at one point in time went back to help him, brought their families and friends with them.
Nice.
All these people from other states, not even New York, helped him win that position. That's amazing. He had people in other states promoting him. No wonder he won. So you both have it wrong. I believe in what you're promoting. It's just not realistic in our society. And Tommy, I understand it's not realistic. I understand that's why we're dreamers. But again, sometimes it takes having dreamers willing to do the things that everybody else is not willing to do in order for change to actually happen, in order for the things to manifest in the right direction. Because think about it. Weren't the forefathers dreamers as well? Like literally read their writings. They were dreamers. They had such high hopes for this country, for the people, for their descendants, for us, that if we want to honor them, we need dreamers. We need people who are willing to put themselves out there and actually use their voice and say, hey, I might take ridicule, and hey, TikTok might censor me, and hey, I get it. I might become, public enemy number one because I'm using my voice, and that's okay. I'll take that chance because it's important.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing about a lot of dreamers is they understand what's important and they're willing to go for it. All you can do is support those
Jackson,
people
yours
because they
is all
genuinely
about
want what is
shop.
best,
You-
not just for themselves, but for everybody else around them. And that is what we need in public office. We need people who are willing to be unselfish. Oh, don't get me wrong. I am the most selfish person in the world. I am so selfish. I will make sure that I bring enough cupcakes for everybody so people will leave me alone when I sit in the corner and eat mine so I can enjoy my cupcake. Why? I am that goddamn selfish. That's okay because I learned how to share in my selfishness. My mom always told me, you know what, sweetheart? It is okay to be selfish as long as you bring enough to share for everybody else so nobody else feels left out. Because if anybody feels left out,
The law.
that's being selfish. Okay,
Yeah.
fair, bet. So maybe that's idealistic. That's still a principle I have used in my entire life is I allow myself to be greedy. I allow myself to be selfish as long as I'm not infringing on anybody else and everybody else feels like they're included. So I'm a dreamer. Let's get more dreamers out there.
Yeah. Does anyone else have questions? I know like we've seen a couple people like throwing out questions. I just figured I'd ask.
Well, please, by everybody, I love it. The fact that Orlando's been active, Rock was active, Tommy's active. Please have a conversation. We want this discourse because even if you're saying, well, this and that, and you're going against this, that actually just, we're having a debate. We're having a conversation. And that's exactly what I want for all of the candidates is, yeah, it's an interview, but really it's just a conversation. We're getting to know the candidate. We're getting to know what platform they stand on. We're getting to know what drove them to do this because it's scary. Oh, if you've never run for office, if you've never put yourself out there, it's terrifying no matter who you are. The amount of strength and courage they have to just say, hey, I'm willing to try and run and do
So-
something.
I have a fun story to share.
Vanilla cupcakes with cinnamon buttercream frosting. Anyways, go ahead.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
kind
a
of
I'm a Red Velvet fan myself. So now having done this, and like I told you earlier, like right, I have to obviously grow my circle because the only way to do this is I have to get. So I'm required to get 1,771 signatures. Okay. So keep in mind when I told you if I ran as a true nonpartisan, unaffiliated voter, I would have needed 45,000. But because I'm recognized as a minority party, I only need 1,771 signatures verified. That said, I've been doing a lot of door knocking, been knocking on doors, meeting people, checking out. And you said it takes courage, like being rejected, having a door slammed in my face, or being told like, can't you read the sign, no soliciting? I was like, well, if you know what no soliciting means, it's me trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm providing information. So that's beyond that. But what I'm getting at is now when I have someone come knock on my door because I don't have a no soliciting sign, I opened it up and I let them know. I was like, you know what? What are you selling? I want to hear it because I know it takes courage for you to walk door to door. I know that you're doing a job, that you have to put food on the table for your family and you have to interact with people. So what do you got for me? I want to hear it. And by the time him and I were done talking, I didn't buy his product, but he signed my petition.
Are you being for real?
Like, talk about like what, just an aha moment, right? Because I think as well, when we talk about the numbers in Arizona, right, there, of the 4.5 million people who are eligible to vote, right, over 1.4 million of them are flagged as nonpartisan voters. I need to reach a fraction of that right now just to get onto the ballot. But more importantly, like that's that deadline of going from April 7th now to March 23rd and increasing that number count from 1,200 to 1,771, having to, again, reach an extra 600 plus people. I'm like, okay, what can I do to try to, get out there and to, reach the network? So joining, being interviewed by you, thank you for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it. Being questioned by several of your guests, I appreciate, their active, role in all of this. Orlando, your enthusiasm has been inspiring as well. And honestly, as well, Tommy, your quick wit to let us know about who you are, where you're from, and all the things you have done. I would love to one day, if I can meet you in person, since you said you're here in Arizona, and I'd love to be able to then send a picture back to Shout and say, look, I met Tommy.
Love it. But I love that because here's the thing is,
That
again,
was actually kind of close.
nothing's going to change unless we all get involved. And that's just it is. I know more and more people, they're starting to wake up. They're starting to realize that this is not what they wanted. there's a lot of people who voted for Trump who are saying, oh God, this is not what I voted for. And it's like, it kind of is. We kind of tried to warn you, but at least you're waking up and now you can help fight the good fight, right? You're going to help us fight the fight, right? We can't do this unless everybody wakes up and is willing to fight the fight. And it doesn't matter what side of the line you are on, because like it or not, guys, let's be honest.
No.
Left wing, right wing, any other party, it's all part of the same bird, whether it's a wing or a tail feather. It's all part of the same bird.
It's funny how you say that. I have this one phrase where I go, we always talk, it's like the left or the right, but what about the body, right? You can live without your arms, but you can't live without the body. You need the body involved. So, but whatever side you happen to be on, if you have to pick a side, live in your side, but also try to be open-minded, because we truly do need each other. It takes a community, it takes a village in order for us to exist in this world that we have. And yes, Tommy, if you'll meet me, send me a private message or whatever, go to click on my stuff, send me an email, and we'll figure out a way to meet each other, and then we'll send it back to Shadow so we can go ahead and report back out.
So Bike Life is asking you how you feel about Israel.
Oh, join John.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
that right
now.
Right? Like we're leaving state politics, and I'm running to be a state official, and we're talking about international policies.
But
so when
at
it comes
the same time, we also, your person, your
Yes.
viewpoint on it, and how you stand is important, whether you're on a state or federal level, because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect us on the state level, regardless, whether it's in gas prices, groceries, this, that. Everything is going to affect us, whether it's just, oh yeah, it's a war on Israel, but what about the Strait and how no oil is coming through, so the gas prices are increasing. That affects us.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it is a international thing, but it is still important for us to get your viewpoint on it, because
Absolutely.
it is an international thing.
And here's my international statement when it comes to Israel. Do the Jewish people have a right to have a place that they can call their home and have sanctuary? Yes. Keep in mind, though, Israel is separate from its own government, just like I would hope that the rest of the world looks at the United States as separate from its current administration, right? They're two separate buckets in a way. They're, while we do have to deal with the consequences of what our current administration is doing, I believe that is exactly what is happening with Israel as well right now. Israel is having to deal with the consequences of their current administration, right? Of what's going on with Benjamin Netanyahu and the decisions he has made, and the places he has chosen to bomb and whatnot. I do not stand with war at all. I feel like at that point in time, if you really have an issue, then let's go really old school, and you send your elected official, the president of that particular country, to then go do some gladiator style fight against the other country as well. Don't put poor kids in harm's way. That's what you're doing. You're sending.
Let's pit our presidents together and put boxing gloves on them, and who's ever left standing at the end wins.
Sure. Because here's the reality, right? The United States military is one of the greatest fighting force in the world. Got it. I'm not questioning that at all. What I am questioning now is when the people you send, the boots on the ground, the people who are manning the guns behind them, they're regular, everyday. They're not billionaires. Most of them aren't multimillionaires. They're average people who are being given orders, and they're told to go do this. And so,
my little brother's a vet. My three of my uncles, one of my cousins. I almost became a Marine. I chose my mental health. There's a lot of people we all know who are going to end up being boots on the ground if this continues. Because one of the things, and I was talking to my friend who has a contact in the DOW, because they changed it to war, and the second they changed it to war, everybody should have realized exactly what was going to happen. Because, well, you don't change it to a Department of War unless you plan on declaring war, right? Because otherwise, it's just meant to defend our borders, like it was, doing. Anyways, but what she said was that they are less likely to institute the draft and more likely to pull back everybody who has been let go or retired in the last 10 years back into active duty. So, to all you vets,
funny, I came out of the toilet and I just
it's not looking good for anybody.
Yeah.
Because that's
if it escalates, yeah.
is she said they are more likely to do that. A lot of it has to do with fragging and training the troops. And there are so many people that they would try to draft who have mental health issues that would go undisclosed, who would genuinely do those things because, well, if they don't want to live and you're going to force me to go to war anyways, well, I'm going to take out the commanding officer. Sucks to be you. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why they don't want to reinstitute the draft.
He wants to kill everybody. He's on the genocide route.
Yep.
War sucks. War sucks for everybody. It affects the people.
There's no winner. Like, who are the actual winners out of all this?
No, there's not. Nobody's going to go home at the end of the night with a smile on their face, thinking that they did a good job. And if they do, something's wrong with them. Seriously wrong with them, because nobody should feel like they won when it comes to war. Period. Because there was a loss of life. So it's not a win.
Yeah, I believe if I'm following everything correctly, Orlando, the Marine Corps, they just deployed they're deploying 5,000 boots on the ground at the Strait of Hormuz.
Because they don't need the Congress to approve the Marine Corps being deployed. So the Marine Corps is usually the first group to go in, and they go on the president's command, and then the rest of it follows once Congress finally declares war.
Yeah.
And that's just it, Tommy, is I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I have a lot of friends who have witnessed it. My own little brother, to the point where my little brother has made a promise with me and my mom. And that is, if he ever decides to take his life, which he has tried once, he has to call my mom first and tell her and listen to her break down on the phone. And then when he's done with that, he has to call me and tell me and listen to me break down on the phone. And then if he can survive, if he can make it through both of those, we'll let him go.
Oh, really?
But he also knows if we do that, I'm probably going to figure out some dark magic way to bring him back just so I can unalive him myself.
Travel through the sewage.
Because he does not get to leave me alone in this world. So understand, I understand the impact it has on people who go to war, and I do not wish it on anyone, which is part of the reason why I truly believe they did not have to immediately go to bombs. There could have been some other resolution. Hey Jarvis, welcome in.
Did you cut your legs off? Did you cut your legs off?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Any more
heavy,
questions
right?
for him? Let's see. But yeah, so the changes made in the middle of the ballot petition window, I know this affect a few of the other people who are running as independent in Arizona as well, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have 2 weeks less to get the 500 signatures I still need. And time is coming up, and I gotta hope I have enough of a buffer, because they're going to contest it, because goddamn,
Absolutely.
Democrats and Republicans do not want a third party person on the ticket, because they don't want anybody to realize it is really a 3-party system, not a 2-party system.
Yes, and so the way to break that from the contested part, I'm so glad you brought that up. When you meet solicitors who go around, or you're out in public, like, oh, I'll sign for you. There's a chance that your own signature, even if you were actually registered to vote, that they throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing to do right now is you do it digitally. You go on to the Secretary of State's website, or you would go to my website, so mz4az.com. And when you click sign petition, it routes you to the Secretary of State's website. On there, you're able to then go ahead and you put in your information, which is birthday, first and last name, and then your driver's license number. And then it tells you all the people you can sign for. And then that way, through their system, you're verified, your signed petition counts. It's not going to be questioned or thrown out. Whereas when I get the paper signatures, there's a possibility because someone oversigned on the box, or they overextended this way, or just someone's like, I can't read this, their address that they wrote, then you know what? I'm just going to throw it out. So that's how we make that change. And it's for anybody. And here's my thing as well, back to choice. Like, if you're a diehard Republican, you got to have a Republican in that office, then do right by them as well and sign digitally. If you're a Democrat, do right by them, sign digitally. If you're nonpartisan, you want a third choice, do right by me or any other candidate you approve of, and do it digitally. Do your best not to sign a paper form, because that is how you're suppressed.
Yeah, because it's a lot harder for them to throw it out when it's done digitally, because, well, no, the website confirmed that they are who they say they are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that's where in the digital age, it is a benefit to us in instances like this, where they have a website where you can go and do it all, and that will count. It's unlikely that they will be able to throw any of those out, because it's done a certain way. It's done legally. You can read everything. The website has confirmed it. The state secretary has confirmed this person has signed this petition, period. So yeah, it's one of those. The guy talking is really true. Yes, he is. It's one of those. Please go to mz4az.com
There you go.
in order
Yep.
to sign the petition for him or any other candidate that you want to vote for. Let's.
Well, it's not even voting yet, by the way. Keep in
I
mind,
know
right?
it's not
We're
even
still
voting
early
yet.
on.
It is
We're just at the
getting
point.
them on the
Yep.
ballot.
Yep.
Just getting them on the ballot.
Exactly. This is just to give people the choice to have an option beyond Republican, Democrat. Right? Yeah.
And again, it's important that we remember that we are not a two-party system. We really aren't. It is meant to be a three-party system. There's always meant to be at least three choices. It's just that greed and avarice have combined it, so it's only a two-party system. Back in the 1920s, there actually used to be 20 different parties that ran consistently. 20.
Hey, Jonah.
Well, and that speaks to how complicated it is, right, to being a human being. You can't always just be about a cheeseburger and fries. That's why we have choices, right? Sometimes you want a steak, or sometimes you want Mexican food or Indian food or sushi, right? You're allowed choice. 20 parties sounds appropriate in my opinion, because again, well, if I don't necessarily agree with this aspect, but this party aligns more with me, then I want to like put my banner over here and stand by that. But also overall, hopefully, as all these parties agree that they want to serve the Constitution, they want to serve the people, they want to serve their constituents. That should be like the main goal there.
Yeah, it should. And the fact that it's not, that's a problem. That's part of the problem. Is we've seen, again, since 1940, we've seen, because during the 1920 to 1940s is actually when a lot of those political parties got absorbed by the Republican or the Democratic Party. And so by the 1940s, there was only like 8 or 9 parties left. And it was after the 1940s that it slowly dwindled down by the 1960s that there was really just the 2 parties. And that was done on purpose because, believe it or not, the government didn't want the people to have as many choices because they thought it would be easier to control us with just 2 parties.
Yeah. What's funny is you're reminding me of apples. And the reason why it comes up with apples is what we see in the grocery store is usually about 5 to 7 different varieties of apples, right? But did you know there used to be something like 7,500 different types of apples? 7,500 different varieties of apples. But now we're down to about, I guess, 85 according to Food and Wine.
Less than 100.
Yeah. We went from 7,500 options down to less than 100 because we're consolidating everything. We're trying to, get it all here.
And let's talk about bananas and how that's basically decimated the banana crop. Because one entire strain of bananas, there is a virus, a disease out there that is just demolishing all of them, and there's no cure for it. There's none. So,
same situation with if you love tequila, the agave, because the explosion of tequila, there's literally only one type of, there's no other variety anymore. They're down to one giant clone that's going around everywhere. So if the same thing happens to bananas, meaning like the virus goes out there, you're gonna have a similar situation happening with tequila, unfortunately.
Yep.
And the reality too is like you're a pet owner, you own a cat. I've got a dog and she's a mixed breed. And they always say like mixed breeds make the best, make the best pups because they're resilient, they're long life. Like there's just more spice in life when you have variety. And I think that should hold true when it comes to our politicians as well. You should have variety. You should have the option to be like, yeah, but more importantly, especially within the Office of Treasury, right? I'm going to be biased there. It's like you really should have a nonpartisan person. Why would you want someone with a bias going into that role?
And that's exactly it. Is anybody who is part of a party is going to have agenda going into that role. Period. And that agenda is going to align with their party politics. Period. It is better to have somebody who is not party aligned when they're going to. Perfect example. Treasurer and state secretary are 2 big states are 2 big positions I truly believe should be nonpartisan. Why? Because they are there for the people of the people and really should be not not playing party politics. They should be sitting there going, okay, we're going to do what's right by you guys, not what's right by them, but what's right by you. Which is why it's so important to have those third-party candidates who are nonpartisan, who are saying, hey, we're not part of either one of those. Listen, this is what I want to do for you guys. Vote for me.
Yep.
Take care,
Orlando. Peace.
Yeah.
Send me an email, Orlando. Send me a message. Would definitely love to talk to you later if you want.
Do you have any more topics you want to bring up?
This has been a lot of fun, to be honest with you. I had no idea what to expect. This is my first long form content interview, right? I've been on the radio a couple times, and it's usually like within like a 5 minute window, and this has gone on for what, over an hour now. Yeah, no, I let's see. Who am like, I don't know. One, if anyone within the like anyone listening right now, if you have questions, please throw out questions out there. I'm happy to answer them.
So
I
how
didn't
is it?
say anything.
We'll just throw out. It's usually the first question I throw out, but we actually plunged into everything else. The main
We
question:
did.
what is your platform? What are your goals, and what do you hope to achieve if you were elected to this position?
So my platform is running on civility. My platform is running on making sure that I'm not tied to a party, that I'm responsible to the people, being fiscally responsible, making investments for the state that do not put it in danger of hurting its credit rating, make sure that we maintain the state's credit rating. And then also, one of the big things that I want to do is make sure that I talk to my rural communities and also the native, because in Arizona, we have a very large native population. And I want to have their voices being heard within that office, because lending out to those areas, the rural areas, just don't get enough attention. They're forgotten about. It's also why Trump won, because he paid attention to not just the popular cities. He went out to the rural areas and reached out to them and said, "Hey, I see you out there." So in my case, it's like we've got small towns like Sholo and Eloy, like spots that I'm like, does that really exist out here? Globe is big fun little money town. Yeah, we have a city called Miami in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and it's just, there's so many fun little quirks about the state that as I've gotten to expand my knowledge out here and learn about it more, I'm like, yeah, we should have you guys have a voice in that office of Treasury and being included as well. How can I help serve you guys? Because it's not just about serving Tucson and Phoenix, who are the two main cities. It's not just about them. As much as they are important, right? Our capital is in Phoenix, but we have to also think about our other areas. Kingman, is a spot that exists. You can't get to Vegas without passing through Kingman. So it's like, you got to pay attention to, all these other little rural spots.
All the small spots that hit up the towns and the gas stations along the way that people are hitting as they're traveling cross country, because like it or not, Kansas, Oklahoma, a lot of that area, it's flat. And yeah, it's just straight. So it's when we got to Arizona, it's like, okay, it's hilly, it's bumpy. A lot of small towns, and a lot of them are like, okay, I feel like I'm back in my home state running through the podunk towns that nobody pays attention to. Because again, it's the same across the board. There's a lot of smaller towns where they don't have voices in their communities. Why? Because there's only 100 people in the town and nobody cares.
Or there's, yeah, I think as well, like when you're in a small town like that as well, you just get caught up into your own everyday, right?
Yep.
I think people still genuinely care, but they don't have your platform. They don't have my platform. And we have to find a way to reach out to them and say, hey, also, we want to give you guys a voice in your due time as well.
And I'm not saying that the small town community members don't care. It feels like the people who are in positions of office.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
Because they don't generate the income that the larger towns do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. They don't matter until they matter, right? And that's just by like actual attrition of like growing out the cities, where all of a sudden it's like, Phoenix started as this little bubble and then it started to grow. Same with Buckeye. It's the fastest growing city in the United States, right? So many things are happening out here, and we have to pay attention to it, because what Arizona looks like today is not going to look like the same within 10 years.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No place is going to look the same in 10 years, for better, for worse. It's one of those, okay, so let's try to make it for better. And again, that's why we're all doing this, is because we're trying to make it for better instead of for worse, because we can't let it get any worse. Oh, God, it's already so bad.
Yeah, but we have to have hope. We have to have optimism. We have to have people like you who exist, who are willing to put yourself out there to talk to people like me who are running for office and say, all right, let's hear what you got to say. Let's let people decide if you're worthy of it, of being elected and serving.
And that's exactly is, I love having you on. I'm going to have you on again in the future. We'll touch base after, the 23rd to see how everything went, if you got on the ballot. And then if you did, definitely get you on a few more times. If not, still sit here and talk and find out, okay, what are your next steps? What are you going to do next? Are you going to stop trying to get run for office? Or are you going to try to go for something else? Because I know, again, there's actually more state level elections next year.
Yes.
For very different.
So funny that you brought all that up. Here's part of what I've learned in coming through with all of this, right? Because my wife, I love her so much. And she literally, we were having this talk while we were walking our dog and she goes, okay, so if you were to start this thing all over again, what would you do different? And I was like, oh my God. Well, once I learned this little nugget, I'm like, I would have done this from day one, which is, and this is the sad part about the rules, and to give Tommy who left credit, and hi pig nose lover, you can pay for solicitors. You can pay to go have people out there who will wear your shirts, everything else, to go collect your signatures. I did not know that was an option. Okay. That's my own fault. I didn't have the information at the time. And I was also just so like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thinking, I'm going to naturally reach people. I'm going to put out content. I'll be on Instagram. I'll be on TikTok, even though I don't want to be a social media person out there, but people need to see who I'm going. Like there was literally a comment that I had with my wife and I said, I have to get famous.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, locally, right? Like I don't need everyone around the United States necessarily to know me. But yeah, people need to know who the heck is running to be their treasurer. So we've got to put out, video and content out there. So, trying to make sure we post almost every single day, trying to engage with people, reaching back out, taking opportunities like this to reach other people and just seeing, who I can connect with and get them to, like you said, when it came to Mandami, fall in love with you, right? I need to find a way for people to fall in love with, a guy who is saying, you know what? He is a little different, and he's different in that sense that he's saying the stuff that we want to hear, but I believe him.
Because it's the energy behind it, because you can tell when people actually believe what they're saying and when they're just saying the words, and it's one of those, again, that is how I couldn't understand how people would vote for a certain person where like, he's lying. Can you not read the energy? Every word out of his mouth is a lie. But you have other people who are like, no, like I get goosebumps when they talk because, oh my God, the energy, the conviction, the fact that they actually believe what they are saying and they want to do those things, be still my heart, because God damn, we need more of that. And again, I found that in you. I found that in Ethan. I found that in Christopher. I found that in a few other people, which is why I'm interviewing them, because there are people out there where, okay, cool. They actually believe their rhetoric that they're talking about, and it's good. It's not bad. It's if they do what they say they're going to do, oh my God, our country might actually turn around. We might actually be able to claim some of our power on the state level. We might actually be able to start making things better, not worse, better. Who does not want that?
Well, the ones in charge don't want that because again.
Yeah, but here's the thing, guys, we outnumber the number in charge like 100 million to 1. Really? What does their opinion matter at the end of the day? Not when the rest of the 80% of us want things to change. We want healthcare. We don't want medical debt. Like we are the only first world country that has the concept of the overwhelming amount of medical debt we have, to the point that 68% of all bankruptcies in the last decade have been linked to medical debt. 68%. In the last 10 years, and it's only rising. It's gotten worse over the last 3. Why? Well, companies are still reporting record profit highs each year since the pandemic, but our wages aren't going up, and we're not seeing any of that reflected on us. But the people, the shareholders, the corporation presidents, those people, the CEOs, they're seeing the profits. That's why they don't want anything to change, just because their pockets are being lined while we are all struggling to put food on the table and make sure our bills are paid.
Yeah, it all boils down to like point of entry when you think about it first, as far as how you're going to like your life plan out there. If you remember back when like Hillary Clinton gave a speech talking about her public literacy, when you read to a child just over the course of 1 year and you're consistent about it, they will have been exposed to more than 1 million words. Right. And that just ties in with where we're at in our society. What is so terrifying about wanting to have a body of people, right? The constituents, the people who we serve, being educated, questioning things, having, more their wherewithal in their brain to be able to be like, hey, wait a minute, what you said here didn't line up with this, you know? And, for as much as we want to be like, oh, Cuba is this communist country, they have a 93% literacy rate. 93% of them are literate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like all the other things that are wrong with that format. Sure. But 93% of your population is literate. How about, I think it was Louisiana that was ranked 48 when it came to literacy. And back in, I think it was 2016, they made the decision to invest in K through 3 literacy. And they went from being 48th to now they're in the top 10.
That's fantastic.
A state like, and yet Arizona, this place that I live in, that I love and I call home, we went from when I started here at 48 to now we're officially 50. 50. We're at the bottom of the barrel. Why? Oh, because we want to give families choice to go ahead and take ESA vouchers to go to private schools, to private charters, to all these places that they're already going to take them to. No, what we're doing is we've created this whole system to bash on public education for kids who are brown, black minorities, who are poorer, even rednecks, by the way, people who just want to survive and, get afforded a public education.
A lot of them are blue collar workers. Let's be honest about that.
Yes.
Because a lot of blue collar workers can only afford public education. We can't afford private education. Are you kidding me? No way.
No. And now look at what's happening.
We have that same issue here in the state I'm in, where our Department of Education was gutted for this year, and going into next year, it's really bad. Like, we don't even have a school. So they had something called Sunbucks. That's the program that the federal government gives out to feed kids over the summer. Our state decided not to take that, literally because they thought the paperwork for it was too much of a hassle to do. Yeah. I'm not joking. Look up Indiana Sunbucks. No. Read all about it. I
believe it. I absolutely believe what you're saying. I don't disagree.
How much parents got for the kids over the summer for 8 weeks? $120. That spreads out to $15 a week. That's $3 a day to help make sure kids were fed over the summer. We don't get that now. It might not seem like a lot. For me, that's only 6-7 hours of work, maybe at the most. For a lot of people, that's 20, 30 hours at least, if not more. So they're going to have to make the choice between, what do I do with my kids? I have to pick up extra shifts at work. We're going to have to make things work. Well, who's going to watch them? Are they going to stay home alone? Are they going to have to go to daycare? Am I going to have my mom watch them? What options do I have? And people are scrambling because, like it or not, we've been pushed into the nuclear family setup, the 2 parents, 2 kids, the isolated family. So most of our relatives are not within a 30-minute drive of us. Most of us don't have parents who live just down the road. I actually moved my mom from being 40 minutes away from me to 5 minutes away from me years ago because of that. Because if something happened to her, I was the closest one. I didn't want to have to drive almost an hour to my mom to see if she was okay. Yeah. So it's one of those, we've been put into this position where, if you look, this goes back to the 1920s and 1940s, where they started pushing the concept of the nuclear family instead of community living, because it was all about giving power to that dynamic instead of having people have a community, resources, a village to help raise their kids. And it just into that education, the values may have gone up, but the literacy went down because there was less people being involved in a kid's life and less people teaching them and less people to learn from. So they actually became more stunted.
Yeah. Shadow, can you give me 30 seconds?
Yes, go ahead. You're fine. But a school principal canceled recess for some kindergarten classes. What state was that, Shadow Boy? Do you know? If I had my tablet with me, I would absolutely be grabbing it to look it up. I don't. I just have my phone, and I can't exactly look things up while I'm on my phone. Phoenix? Okay, so we are talking in this state. Perfect. This actually not off topic. Here's the best part. We're kind of just talking about anything and everything right now that deals with Arizona or, the international level, the state level, federal level, all of it. Because he is running for the position of state treasurer in Arizona. He is running independent. His name is Michael
Zepeda. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Perfect.
I'm like, okay, my brain says Zepeda. We're going to try this.
Yeah.
So he is Michael Zepeda, MZ for AZ, candidacy.com is his website. He is looking for he's looking for more signatures for his petition. So if you have not already signed his ballot, if you're registered as independent in the state of Arizona, please go there and sign his petition for getting on the ballot, so that way we have another candidate to vote for. So you were told by a staff in the SPED program that a school principal in Phoenix canceled recesses for some kindergarten classes. That, in my opinion, here's the thing, especially in elementary school, recess is important. It is important to get those kids outside a few times a day and let them run their energy out, because if they have too much,
It's beyond important. It's a necessity.
It is.
You know, I ended up my last year in teaching, I ended up working in a special ed for the Scottsdale Unified School District, and I was the behavior coach covering the whole district whenever like a special ed teacher would have any issue with like a ASD children, and you know they needed a behavior plan. I was the one that would go there and help assess, and I would coach through like the plan that was created by a BCBA and work with them. And in all reality, that's also what kind of killed me when it came to leaving my teaching career. Special ed teachers have a huge like special place in my heart now, having like worked it for one full year. You know, when I as a middle school teacher, I'd be told all the time, they're like, hey, like how the heck can you teach middle school? I was like, oh, that's my jam. I love it. Like I don't think twice about it. And what I realized once I became on the special ed side was I found out what was not my jam, and what made me come home every day going, am I doing the right thing? Yes, my colleagues would say I'm great at it. I'm doing really well, but I'm 6'4", about 230 pounds. Having to, and I'm licensed in what's called CPI. You know, it's approved for the schools that carry the little card that says I can put kids in holds. That is the last thing I ever wanted to do, and to have to put a kindergartner, first grader, second grader into a hold because they're in danger of harming themselves broke my heart on a daily basis. It made me, again, like I said, just appreciate special ed and people who work in the special ed department, just appreciate them that much more for having the ability to go in and day out. I am thankful for the time that I did it, but I would not want to do it again if I had to.
Both my kids are on IEPs, and it was a lot harder to get my daughter on an IEP. The school actually fought me. It took 4 years to get her on it. It took less than 2 to get him on it. So they were willing to put him on it because his issues were outward, where she has ADHD. She has dyslexia. I finally got her scheduled for her testing on the evaluation to get tested on the 11th of May. That's how long it's taken. It's taken months. I saw the doctor in January. She's finally being seen in May, and I'm being seen in June for the same thing, ADHD, because I'm like, maybe I should actually finally get a diagnosis, and maybe I should try something to see if it helps with the focusing, because if you looked at my house, you'd be like, oh, I have 100 different projects. Yeah, I have ADHD. How'd you ever know? But they're fighting and having issues because she has issues with digital content where everything moves on her. And I'll ask her, I said, Phoenix, I said, when you try to read stuff, I said, does it even move around? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, how do you mean? And she goes, well, like, when I look at it too long, like this word right here, it's moved up. It's like the words on the screen and the letters all move around on her. Like nothing stays still. And that is a sign of dyslexia, because with a lot of people with dyslexia, when it comes to computer screens, staring at them for too long it's hard on them. They actually
in like the Kindle app and other apps, they actually do have the text for dyslexia in order to help you to like be able to read it and like structure that much more. The other thing like that can help as well is once the sun goes down, for any like tablet or like electronic device, you switch to grayscale mode. Not even removing the blue light, switch to grayscale mode, because it helps your brain start to calm down in order for you to be able to get your night's rest. And the other one, especially for ADHD people, is keep your phone out of your bedroom. I know this has nothing to do with politics, but they're like, keep your phone out of your bedroom. And that way you can just rest. Like you need to rest in your room. And the one true temperature they said is like, if you can get your room down to about 65 degrees, that allows for your body to heal itself and repair and do all the things you need to do.
Our bedroom is on the very end of it, and our bedroom never gets warmer than 68 degrees any time of the year. Even when we have the heat blasting, because it's on the end of the heat, and in the summer it's on the end of the cool. But our room where it sits, it's actually blocked by the sun from the house next to us, because the house is 2 stories and we're 1 story. So our bedroom never gets above 68 degrees.
That's
As for the phone, I charge it out here but it's my alarm. So I flip it over and I have it in a spot where I actually have to reach out of bed in order to get it. So I ignore it unless it's actually going off and I have to get up in the morning.
Cool.
Because nope. I don't like having electronics in my room. I don't like having lights in my bedroom because lights in my bedroom keep me awake. Dan has taken black, tape and has taped over lights on like the TV and on like we have an air purifier in our bedroom and he's taped over the lights on that just so I can get a good night's sleep because it's like I can see the light, it's keeping me awake. Like it bothers my brain. We have blackout curtains, all of it. And it's like, yep, we're doing the same in my daughter's room because she's like, it's too bright. I'm like, I know, honey, I just did the measurement and ordered you a blackout curtain. It'll be here next week.
That's
so it's
awesome.
trying to do everything I can to help the girl because he got the help he needed to the point where they want to kick him off the IEP because he's quote unquote doing too good. So I brought up the question, and mind you, I haven't heard from them, and this was back in September, is what happens when his two bullies from elementary school who have told his best friend who goes to school with them right now because he went to one school and his best friend went to the other middle school. His bullies went to the other middle school. He's had 3 years without them. His best friend hasn't. What happens when he goes to high school and they pick up right where they left off? Because that's what they told Jonah to pass on to Aiden. They told him they were looking forward to seeing him next year and picking up right where they left off. So who's Aiden's contact going to be when he starts being bullied? Because that will affect his grades. So who's going to help him when his grades start dropping if he's not on an IEP? Who's going to be his point of contact? Who can you tell me is going to help my son?
But also beyond that, why not even just nip the problem in the bud right away and go address these bullies head on and have like either have,
We did that in elementary school. We even had the parents in. These kids, their parents, unfortunately, don't care because, it's just boys being boys. They'll work it out.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. That's rough.
And I'm one of those where I was bullied all the way up through the end of high school. It's why I dropped out of high school because it got so bad. My mom agreed to let me go get my GED instead because otherwise I wouldn't have made it to 18. It was that bad. I don't want my son or my daughter to ever have to go through that, which is why I'm sitting here going, you tell me if it's not going to be his special ed teacher, who he is going to go to for his point of contact. They never gave me a name. They haven't reached back out. They never responded, which tells me they don't have somebody. So he needs to stay on his IEP.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I can make sure my son is not overlooked by the school like I was.
Good. Well, and your son has you advocating for him, which is incredible. And so keep that up and keep pushing forward for it. It's not easy.
No, it's not. But that's what we as parents have to do, especially when we have school systems that are not designed to support our children. They're not. We look at Tennessee and the fact that Tennessee has decided that teachers who have students on an IEP can decide at any point in time to remove them from their classroom and send them to an alternative school where they learn life skills so they can survive in this
world. They're
world.
making the association that if you have an IEP that you're not deemed mentally fit, right? Yeah. That's just so sad.
It is. And so they're trying to institute something like that in Indiana for elementary school. And I'm like, well, I'm glad my daughter's going to middle school next year because once they go to middle school, they can't pull them out like that. But if they're first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade and they start showing behavioral issues and they go on an IEP, the teachers can decide they're too much of a hassle to teach. Yeah. That's a problem. That's setting our next generation up for failure. That's saying that just because you have ADHD or dyslexia or some other issue, you're not worthy of being educated and getting a higher degree. You're not worthy of being a normal citizen. That is a problem.
It is. Absolutely.
That's one of the fears where we have to look across the board and go, okay, well, right now Arizona it's strongly blue and it's strongly getting more blue. Democrats do not believe in that stuff. I can tell you that right now. That it's a Republican thing. It's happening in Republican-led states where they are pushing to have kids on IEPs deemed unfit. When there's nothing wrong with them other than, they might have a little bit of an issue that they need to be coached through. But I know part of it is because they don't have the funding for the teachers anymore.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Yes, honey?
Can I have
Shadow Boy, what did you mean? You have to fight to keep your daughters armed.
With what she needs.
The spyglass is low-key, so...
Are you talking about like with the IEP, like making sure she has the resources in order to make sure that all of her assignments done, tests are done, all of that stuff? Or is it something else?
Hmm.
No.
So while we wait for him to answer that, what was your like? You had a couple other questions for me. We talked about my platform.
I know I got the civility, nonpartisan, maintain critical things like that. So ultimately, like, do you have any things in specific you hope to achieve if you're elected to office? Like, do you have any specific goals? Are there any things going on right now that you personally have an interest in and helping to affect and change?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to audit the ESA voucher program out the gate day one. Right? I want to assign a bipartisan or a multi group. In fact, if I could have a team of 5 or so, whatever, like in charge, have a Republican, have a Democrat. Like I don't want them to think that I'm just nitpicking, but let's audit it and let's get the books in order. So that out the gate, fixing that. Number 2 thing, I would like to figure out a way. I think it's South Dakota, I want to say, did this, or if it's North Dakota, but either one of the Dakotas started their own state bank. Not necessarily like starting our own state bank in Arizona, but finding a way to make sure, like, are we getting the most that we should be getting for our funds that are being held there, right? If I'm managing $32 billion or 34, depending on, but it's
Right.
upwards of $30 billion.
30-something billion dollars.
Correct. Are we making enough money off of interest? Is all that being properly assessed correctly? And then, 3, the thing would be is to monitor contracts that we have. I do not want to be be paying out for extensions on contracts if the contractor isn't doing their job and there's like, oh, we're just going to kick back and give us another $50,000 to maintain it, because there's too many government contracts that exist with private corporations and they're not doing anything. For instance, our public prisons that private prisons that are for hire that are out there that say you have to have a certain amount of people like in here or we're going to sue you for that. I have a fundamental disagreement with I have a cousin who works as a prison guard, and I get it. He needs a career, and that's his job to protect, the public from people who are incarcerated. Sure. That's not the issue. The issue is you're telling me that you have a contract written that states that you need to have X amount of people in this prison at all times. So you're automatically assuming that everyone is just a scumbag and has to be locked up.
Right. That's assuming the worst in people saying we have to have X amount of people incarcerated, which means you have to give us X amount of criminals, which you're not giving us enough criminals. So your cops need to do their jobs better. You need to find them. You need to make things up. Then we need X amount of people or we're suing you. That's not okay. And that's not right. Quite the opposite. The fact that they don't have people, that doesn't necessarily mean people are committing crimes and not being caught. That could just mean that people are no longer committing the crimes because they don't want to be caught and incarcerated.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever think that maybe people are just not committing crimes?
Yeah. Like what we talked about a little while ago when I said, when you actually sit down to like talk to people versus assuming what we all hear on, and I get we're on a social media platform, but like when you're actually sitting down to talking to like local people at community stuff, you realize like we do have more in common than we do apart.
Right.
When we stop making assumptions about the other side or that side, and you start paying attention to like the people, then at that point in time, we realize like we can solve this. This can happen within our lifetime. In fact, this can happen before your kids become parents, and it should. Yep. There is zero reason for us to continue down this.
My kids have kids, so that's 10, 15, 20 years away. It should be better. Here's the thing is, what I was told by my parents is they were trying to leave a better world for me than what was left for them. Yes. And my job was to leave a better world for my kids than what was left for me. Okay. Yes. Which is what I've been trying to do. But then we have so many people out there going, well, while I'm here, it's just about me, me, me. Unfortunately, that was a certain generation that has kind of screwed it up for a lot of us. Okay, boomer. Hey, my mom's a boomer and I look at her all the time and go, okay, boomer. And she's like, oh, I'm not one of them. I said, I know, Mom, but you're sounding like one right now. She goes, oh. Because that's just it is. She doesn't ever want to be part of that population that really doesn't care about the world they left for us. The fact that they left us with so many different ways to accumulate debt, but no ways to get out of it. The fact that everything's increasing, the fact that we have been set up in a system where trickle-down economics is not actually trickle-down in economics because it doesn't work. Correct. Things from the top don't trickle down because the top doesn't want anything to trickle down.
Yep, exactly.
Certain generation, I feel like education needs to focus more on the future. You're not wrong, Shadow Boy, but here's the thing. Our education, we need to be told and learned about our past. We have to become learned about our past. We have to become educated on our history, on what brought us to this point so we don't continue to repeat it, because that's the problem, is we are still repeating these same cycles, because every time we start to learn from a cycle, people start to remove the information from the cycle that we're trying to learn from. They're taking down Black history monuments. They're taking down slavery monuments. They're destroying World War II monuments in America because they don't want us to know about it. They don't want to know about the deeper, darker, more disgusting parts of our history, because when we admit that it happened, when we admit this is what we did, well, then we can keep it from happening again. But when we don't know the reasons why it happened, well, we're doomed to repeat it. It's going to happen again and again and again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is just how it works. So what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to break those cycles and say, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do better. We are genuinely going to do better, because we know, guess what? By 2030, if we don't start doing something, we're going to lose a lot of the resources we do currently have.
Correct.
We're going to lose them. By 2050, well, if we go back with what my middle school teachers back in the 90s told me, well, oh Lord, it's not going to be pretty, and none of us are going to want to live in the United States, because quite honestly, climate change is real. If you look at the temperatures in the United States over the past 20 years, you'll see where summers have gotten more hot and winters have gotten more cold. Extremes have gotten more extreme. The tornado alley has moved to include, it goes up into Michigan now. Yeah, it goes up into, it goes all the way through part of Illinois, all the way through Indiana. Through this, it just cuts up right the middle until it goes into Michigan. It goes all the way up into Michigan now. The teachers in my 90s predicted that. Believe it or not, in the middle of the 90s, they predicted that was what was going to happen. Everything they have predicted. At some point, Old Faithful is going to blow within the next 50 years if we are not careful. If they reopen those mines along the lava veins of Old Faithful, it will trigger it to erupt. It's already having a smaller spouts erupt. So you have Old Faithful, and then you have all the smaller, mini volcanoes, we'll call them, because that's what they are. They are all miniature volcanoes. Old Faithful is just the opening of a volcano. Okay. It is a super volcano. If it blows, we are screwed. It's not just going to take out the western part of the United States. It's going to end up covering in ash most of the United States. If you go and you look at what they predict, you can see it goes all the way to the West Coast. So it kills most of our farming lands. And that is if we don't pay attention to what our scholars have said in the past and what they have warned of us over the last 30 years, because Trump unfortunately wants to sell off the rights to those mining properties and reopen them to mine what is still in our natural resources, except they closed them down for specific reasons, because they realized they were getting too close, and every time they worked, the things were happening at Old Faithful, tremors were starting, they were triggering an explosion.
Oh, why aren't you going to her?
If we're not careful, that's what's going to happen. And so, yeah, that actually goes back to where it affects us, not just on a state level or a federal level, but international level, because that is going to be affected by the policies that happen over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep. So here goes, right? This is why, like, you're doing what you're doing by getting that, putting out the voice and reminding people that, hey, you can choose other options.
And
You
everybody has a voice. You
Yeah.
have a right to vote. If you are an American citizen, if you are a legal resident, if you're a legal citizen, you have the right to vote. You
know
need to use your vote.
I don't know if this is so extreme, but it's almost like beyond the right. Like, you have the obligation. We do.
We
Like,
really
you
actually
have an obligation to participate in this.
That
and you
is
should
something that
please.
Washington stated is we as citizens have the obligation to vote and use our voices in order to make a more better union and country.
Yeah, you got it.
That's actually his words. It's more
Yeah.
better union and country. That's why it took me a second to remember. What did he say? Why? Because we, the people, are the country. End of story. Without the people, what are they ruling? Nothing. You cannot lead a country without people in it. It's why you have so many European countries where they have the same problem as us with their birth rates. So what are they doing? They're enticing Americans to move out of our country and go to their countries by giving us citizenship, by giving us money, by giving us this, and this, because they want us. They want to treat us right. They want us to have babies there. They want us to become their citizens with all the rights that we're demanding here. Well, a lot of us are starting to think, well, why should we have to fight so hard when other countries are just willing to give it to us? Did you know how there's 3 different European countries in the last year who have actually ratified amendments to their constitution covering abortion and stating it is a constitutional right for a woman to be able to seek abortion care if wanted or needed?
I know Spain was one of them.
Italy was one of them.
In Italy, okay. Well,
And
Italy has a female prime minister, and I think she also just like on a different tangent decided to say, hey, like we're not going to participate in the war in Iran.
yep.
You know?
And last I checked, she was actually Mussolini's granddaughter. And I love that. You have one who was a dictator and his granddaughter saying, oh, no. He had some good ideas. He went the wrong way about doing it. Oh, I totally agree with that. So here's some of the ideas he had that were really good. And here's how I plan on doing it. And people are like, hell yeah, with that, we're going along with it because we just, no, he was bad.
Yeah.
Because they realize she's not her grandfather. She's not her grandfather. She actually wants to help the people of her country live a better life.
Hi, Jesse King. Doing all right.
Neighbors used to trade food, vegetables, fish, eggs. Yes, believe it or not, we do a lot of that where I live. We barter. I'm a massage therapist, so there's a lot of times where I barter my skills for things that I need because people don't necessarily have $150, but hey, they went shopping and they raised cows and they went to the butcher and they have a whole big chunk of meat they could give me that's worth like $500. I'll take the meat.
Nice.
They raise the cow. And it's actually beef I can eat and I don't feel allergic to because I have such a sensitive system that I can't eat ground beef from the store because the particulates they put into it, the pink slime, is actually considered beef now. And they're allowed to put it in ground beef because it's beef particles.
Now, small farms, co-ops, like, small micro bakeries and all that, like that's kind of where it's at. It's like getting away from like all the big, like industrialized things that we have. We were great at that. I mean, that's what our country's known for doing, right? We industrialize everything. I mean, Ford, the biggest, auto manufacturer in the world, we've got Intel, we've got all these like huge things going on. But then we forget about the rural people, the small towns, like all the individuals like that. And, when you talk about right now, bringing it back to like bartering and trading, like that's the big thing that we all need to like really pay attention to and, back to communicating with one another. Because at that point in time, then we start realizing like we have way more in common than we do, apart from each other.
And it's not just in one area, believe it or not. Whether I'm talking to somebody who is in Indiana or somebody who's in Michigan, somebody who's in North Carolina, Arizona, California, Florida, believe it or not, it's the same sentiment across the board in every state. It's that same sentiment where at the end of the day, we're not as different as everybody's making it out to be. Believe it or not, and I had this conversation with somebody because they were trying to say their race. And he was a black man. His race is black people. And I'm like, well, no, your race is Homo sapien. You're a human being, right? He goes, yeah, but my race is black. I said, no, that's your color of your skin. That's your pigmentation. We're all one race. We are all one people. Our differences are culture, ethnicity, religion. Those are our differences. When you sit there and say whether it's our skin color, believe it or not, it's just fucking pigmentation. When I get sun, I am more brown than I am white. I'm freckled. I have 3 colors. I am translucent, lobster, or freckle. I actually brown if I get sun, but I burn because I'm a lobster. So it's one of those, okay, cool, pigmentation. I have more pigmentation than I have non-pigmentation. So
what you're describing is about classifications, right? Because with us as a society, we've always been taught to classify things, right?
Exactly.
Mexican, Filipino, Indian, Chinese, like we always classify, like everything has to be put into their categories, and it's through that we've unfortunately created so much division. And then, but through discourse, conversations like this, we're able to break those down and then realize like, actually, we got way more in common than we realized.
Because he was saying, oh, well, his family's never mixed. Even they were Black Islanders that came through Spain. And I was like, okay, but you guys had contact with conquistadors. And mind you, this was a very light-skinned feller. And I'm like, well, and the more I said it, it's like, well, maybe, but they're not white. They're Spanish. I'm like, well, Spaniards are considered Caucasian, sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
Spaniards are considered Caucasian. When you look at the sheet, it's not Spanish, it's are you Mexican or are you Caucasian? Spaniards don't select Mexican, they select Caucasian because they're considered part of the Caucasian aspect. We're still all one race. Like I said, when it comes to our differences, it's our cultures that we were raised with. It's our ethnicity, so the areas of the world we were raised in. And it's our religions, so the religion we were brought up in. It has nothing to do with the pigmentation, but they make it about the pigmentation. They make it saying that, oh, your ethnicity is based on your pigmentation, and your pigmentation is what you should go by. No, we are all the same. At the end of the day, we all bleed red. At the end of the day, our rib bones are all in the same place. At the end of the day, the muscular structure in your body is the same as it is in mine. You know how I know this? Because I work on people of all kinds of ethnicities every day. Their muscles are the same. Their skin is the same. It's just different pigmentation. Their eyes are in the same place. Their nose is in the same place. Their genitals are in the same place. We are physically all the same. It is quite literally just
What you're describing ultimately is NIMBYism, right?
Yeah.
Not in my backyard. Like, we're gonna oppose this. It's like it's them or it's them. It's all that same stuff, and
tribalism.
again,
Yep.
yeah,
And that's where it comes down to, where they make it tribalism based on your country, because you got to be proud to be from your country. It's all about your country, right? Well, maybe it's just all about the people regardless of the country. Did we ever stop to think about that? Like, we are one race, regardless of where we were born, regardless of where we reside, regardless of where we retire, regardless of where we die. We are all one race. And at the end of the day, the same thing is going to happen to all of us. We're all going to end up 6 feet under.
Mm-hmm.
Why so much hate? And that's where I have to ask people is, why so much hate towards people that are just slightly different than you? Why are you so afraid of somebody who's willing to bring about change? There's a lot of people who are afraid of, as somebody said, dreamers. Why? Because we dream about a better world and we're willing to do the work to make it happen. And that's terrifying to people who are okay with the world being status quo, because they don't want the change. They don't want things to get better. They're okay trying to survive because they know they can survive in the little bubble they're in right now. But like it or not, that little bubble at some point is going to pop, and it's going to affect you too.
Or before I go to bed.
That's
Well,
why
I think it's starting to pop right now. Hence why there's so much, adjustments that's already happened within, me and the other independent candidates running for this office, right? We've already seen multiple lawsuits. We've seen the dates change. We've seen the signatures increase, because that bubble, that control bubble that the two big parties have had, is starting to separate. And if we as a population as a whole can say, all right, there is that window of opportunity and we can seize it, man, talk about we're literally going to be in the middle of making some bigger history than what's already been made thus far. And this has already been a historical last 2 years,
Well, and Larry, we were actually using that earlier, the mayor. So he had over 90 million volunteers. And mind you, there's not that many people who live in New York. He had people in other states who were helping his campaign and his cause. He had people who were New Yorkers who had moved out of the state, were coming back, bringing their friends, their families. He was, on podcasts, things like that. People outside were volunteering their time to help push his message, even though they didn't live in New York, because his message was one of human rights, of basic human treatment, of doing right by the people. And that's what people want. That is proof right there, where it is possible to have people who are not just in your area, but in other areas, use their voices to support you as well. And that gets people to look at you going, maybe there's something right about that guy. If people are coming from Vermont and Wisconsin and this state to help support his campaign, they don't even live here. Why do they care? Well, because they lived there once and they know what it was like. They want better.
Back to our friend's comment that left, it was, you know what, he took the first shot. And now these are all the shots that follow with it. And there's definitely something changing that's happening right now. And if, again, thanks to you for having me on here, and for all the other candidates that you have on here that maybe through.
I might be the first shot. I might be your second. Maybe that makes somebody be the third and the fourth and the fifth, because that's all it takes is one.
Yeah.
All it takes is one to spark a revolution.
Yep.
I couldn't afford living there. I had to move out country, live foreign banks but buy property. Yeah, that's another issue is the foreign investments that are buying up. We have this issue here in Indiana where they're buying up land and they're building more apartment complexes that we don't need and then putting them at, oh, a studio is $2,000. I pay $1,200 a month for a 3-bedroom house and my mom pays more for a 2-bedroom apartment. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Oh, you had foreclosures? Yep. Hi, Daryl. Welcome in, guys. So we're talking to Michael Zepeda. He is running for Arizona State Treasurer. Thank you for the heart, me. He is running as independent. So we've been on for about, 2.5 hours now. It's been a wonderful conversation. But that's what I love doing is it's a conversation. We're talking about all the different things and it's your viewpoint, my viewpoint. Will I have people on here where our viewpoints are going to match? Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that too. I love debates. But it's having people on here just to get them out there because your voices are important. How are people to know you even have a voice unless you have other people saying, hey guys, listen, I'm using my voice to say this guy has a voice, listen to him. If you're in Arizona, listen. If you're not in Arizona, listen. If you know people who are in Arizona, share this live with them. Let them come in and ask questions because you know what? He's running for a seat that is opening up. He is leaving. She's running for superintendent of the Arizona state. So he is running for state treasurer. Nonpartisan. And it's my personal opinion as somebody who I'm not any party. I don't adhere to anything. I'm not independent. I'm just me. Maybe it's time we get somebody who's not doing party politics into a position that has been driven by party politics for too long. So made in Michigan, I am not working on any blankets right now, but the blanket I was working on did get done. There's a video of it, and it was given to my mom's boyfriend. Thank you for the heart meander. You got set up in Virginia, 10 acres in your homes for $45K? Exactly. So there are places where it is affordable. But again, there should be places within that state that would still affordable to move to where you could have all the things you want. But New York is one of those states where the average cost of living is almost double some of the other states. Like California, almost double just about anything in the Midwest. You're going to have some of those states where are significantly more expensive. Again, that's part of the problem because it's because of all the foreign investments that have driven the prices up. So that way, in order to get a bedroom in somebody's house, it's $2,000. And you're renting a bedroom. And you still have to do your own laundry. It's not like you're renting a bedroom in your mom's house. Well, how many of us moved back in with their parents at one point in time because they couldn't afford the bills? Just me. I was
I moved
pregnant.
back and I had a divorce and my mom opened her house back up to me. So
Yeah,
I get
there's
it.
gonna be times
Thank goodness for parents who have the stability and have the ability to like welcome you back home.
and not every family does. You have a lot of people where they were kicked out at 18 and nope, my house is not open to you. I have a lot of friends where that was it. And so guess what? I looked at them, I go, hey mom, can my friend move in for a few weeks while she figures out what the hell's gonna happen with her life? She just turned 18 and her parents kicked her out. We had a spare bed.
Yeah, that was my mom's
Welcome to
house as
bed.
well. A lot of my brother's friends moved in and would, be there for sometimes a couple months and sometimes a couple of years.
Yeah.
But she charged them a couple $100 in rent just to say, hey, like this is just to cover the utilities that you're at, and then like not here to like, gouge you for anything. You guys make your way. She helped
I
out.
had one friend was there for about 8 months, and my mom charged her. She goes $200 a month. She goes rent. My mom saved it up to her to give her to help her save up. Friend didn't know, so she had $2,000 that my mom gave back to her. She goes there. Now you have a little bit of seed money to make sure your bills are paid for the next 3 months.
Look at that's huge.
My mom didn't need the money. So she told her $200 a month for rent. That covers everything, the food, this, that, or what. She really just wanted her to save up and wanted to be basically a savings account for her. So she had seed money in case something happened. Because that's how my parents were. My mom's did the same thing with me where my stepdad didn't know. I paid $150 every month to my mom. I had a job. She saved that all up. So when I finally moved out at 23, I had a nest egg of about $30,000 because my mom had been saving it since I was 16.
At 16, you started paying $150 in rent?
A month because I got a job at 16.
Nice.
And it was one of those, my mom, she told me, she goes, I'm not using it for anything other than I'm saving up. She had a bank account, a savings account set up for me. She was putting it in there. I knew what she was doing with the money. She wasn't saving it. And I knew that's what she was doing with my friend too. I just didn't tell my friend that, oh, my mom's going to give that money back to you. Just wait and see. Instead, I told her, I said, yep. Why? Because my mom thinks it's important that you understand financial responsibility and fiscality.
Yes.
So that way
Absolutely.
you can budget your bills,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And again, that's part of the reason why here I am at 41. I'm able to run my own business. I'm at the point where this year I'm hiring therapists to come work for me. I just bought a second massage chair. Those are $500 a pop. I've got 2 of them now.
There you go. Doubling up now your ability to help out people.
Exactly. And so now I'm at the point where I'm hiring local therapists part-time, $50 an hour. $50 an hour to come stand in front of a chair and work on people for me. That's not including any tips. That's not including anything else. That's just your base pay. Any tips you get, that's on you. You get to keep them. Congratulations. You're probably making $75 to $80 an hour because these people tip. They tip. Sometimes it's closer to $100 an hour because they tip. Fantastic. I can give people those same opportunities I gave myself. My rule is I put people in my therapist chair before I put them in my chair. Why? Because if my therapist is making money, I am making money. Because as a business owner, if you're making money, that means I don't have to work at a chair. I can just pay myself after I pay you. Because I made $1,000. You made $500. That's really good money. So I was talking to somebody at the Arizona Renaissance Festival, the massage therapist chair. And I asked them, I said, how much do the therapists usually make? And she goes, all said and done, including the downtimes they have, she goes, over an 8 weekends that the Arizona Fair is open, her therapists usually make about $3,000. That's working 16 days for $3,000. It's working about 8 hours a day. That's a lot of money regardless. It's good money. So I want to make sure that I am getting people who want to make the money, who have the drive to actually be good therapists into those positions. Because my ultimate goal is to actually open health and wellness centers across the United States where you have one-stop health shops, where you can go in, you can find your general practitioner, you can find your massage therapist, physical therapist, rheumatologist, dermatologist, your spine doctor, your rheumatologist, your neurologist, everything in one go. Get all of your things done in one day instead of having 6 different specialists in 6 different cities across your state. That's what I have to go through with all my health issues. So it's one of those, from a medical standpoint, I'm trying to tackle things on that end because our system and our society is designed to keep people sick. Health insurance companies, big pharma, they're designed to keep people sick. Why do I say that? Because again, they're not covering massages and health insurance anymore. Because it heals, because it helps to identify the underlying causes, because it helps to make our population healthy again. And when our population is healthy, our population actually sits there and starts to critically think for themselves. Because when you're in pain, when you're sick, when you don't feel good, it is really, really hard to care about anything outside of what's right in front of you.
Yep.
That's somebody else's problem. My problem is the fact that I can't get out of my bed and walk to my bathroom without being in pain. That's my problem. So how do you help me with my problems so I can care about your problems? Well, okay, well then we heal you. The issue is insurance companies don't want to actually look at the things that are healing people and say, let's promote that. They want to keep people sick and on prescriptions because that is where the money is. It's to keep them going back over and over and over and over when they never actually really need it. But if they got the right treatment and care, oh well, personally, I went from being on 27 prescription medications and 15 as needed to 11 and 1 as needed over the last 9 years. Because I walked the path of finding the root cause of all my illnesses and healing myself, and then looking at the bigger picture of the systemic issues that kept me sick for so long. My pain started when I was 7. I was 32 when I finally had a doctor listen to me. I'd spent 15 years in and out of doctor's offices trying to get them to listen and understand that it was not in my head. I really was in pain. The only reason why I'm doing the things today is because I had a doctor say, well, we don't want you to go home and unalive yourself, because I told her if she wouldn't help me, I was going to go home and kill myself. I finally got the answers. I finally got the x-rays and the medications and the doctors and the referrals to help myself get the help I needed to heal. Then I was able to turn around and say, hey guys, why don't we start treating the root causes of everything and not just the symptoms? Which is what we did for myself and all of my clients. And the vast majority of my clients, well, they still come and see me once a month, but they don't need me weekly anymore. Why? because we've sent them to the right doctors. They've asked the right questions and they've gotten on the right medications. And now they're actually starting to see better quality in their life and they're doing the things they want to do.
That's awesome.
Okay. Thank you somebody for
Shiny color. That's the best one. Or is it?
for reporting me for that statement, saying that was where I was a decade ago. Am I there now? Dude, I went and got a tattoo done so I would never harm myself again. I talk about why don't we not harm ourselves and we actually talk about the mental health issues because that's what we do a lot on my stream. Because let's talk about it. Mental health, especially men's mental health. How many men actually go to therapy? How many men admit they need help? And I love the fact that you do. Because that's where we are at in our society. We have so many men who won't admit that they are the problem and they need help, and instead stick to the whole, I'm not the problem, it's everybody else. And it perpetuates this unending cycle of shifting blame and violence. Because it begets more shifting blame and violence and pointing the finger at everybody else, trying to minimize their impact and saying everybody else's impact is bigger.
Well, because it's easier as well from at least like the male ethos to be like, well, they're the problem and not want to have any like light shine on us, because if we stop to look at it and realize like, oh gosh, we were the ones that caused this, then accountability steps in, then some guilt rolls into that. And I'll speak for myself, dealing and working through guilt and shame has been a lifelong battle.
It is a lifelong battle. It will never not be a lifelong battle. I've been working through it since I was a kid when people made me feel shame for just being me.
Yeah.
For being, outspoken and energetic and lively and loving the things that I love. I'm 41. My husband got me a Gigamax Pikachu for Christmas. Do you know how happy this made me?
Mama, I picked it out.
For being weird and eccentric and myself. I was made to feel shame and embarrassment for that.
Mama,
So, yes, honey.
I picked out the squishmallow.
Yes, you did. So understand,
I
like,
get you a small Pikachu, but I saw the big one, and I said we should get her this one. She would love it more.
yes, and I love that for me. Thank you, girly. People say hi, Phoenix.
Hi.
So it's one of those. It's a perpetuating
Who
cycle.
knows your kid's name? That's awesome.
Yes, so it's Phoenix Rain and Aiden Scott. Those are my kids. But it's just to sit there and say, listen, there's a lot of us where we have dealt with those feelings since we were children. I've been in and out of therapy since I was 7 because of it. Yes, honey.
In this YouTube shirt, someone has the same last name as me.
Okay. Yes. Your name is very common, honey. Mine is not. Sorry. Kids are in the background, so yes, I do stop and have conversations with them when I stream simply because they tend to be part of it as well. But no, there's some of us like myself where I've been in therapy since I was 7. I know people started in their 20s. I know men who they're 26 and over the last year they have started to go to therapy because they realized that they needed it, all because they kept listening to me and how I've grown and realizing that, oh, if I want to grow as a person, I need help. It's okay to say you're not okay. Believe it. So if anybody ever needs permission to say I'm not okay, this is me giving it to you right now. It's okay to say you're not okay. And in fact, by saying you're not okay, that's how you start to heal and become okay. Surprise! Admitting that you're not okay and taking accountability for your own actions and choices is the first step to healing. It's the first step to growth. It's the first step to actually taking accountability and being like, yeah, you know what? I feel guilt and shame and regret for that. I was part of the problem too. I'm going to take accountability for my own actions because if I do so, then I know I can grow and then I can be a better person tomorrow. And then the next day I can lead people. Why? Because I'm doing the work too. And I can show them that it's possible to be a dreamer, to do the work, to lead by example, and to be the better person. You don't have to stoop to their levels. You can actually take the high road and be like, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to let you know what I actually feel about it and what we're going to do about it. Why? Because you deserve to know as the constituent.
Yep. I feel like that's where, it's all come from by, whether it's on my website or social media or people talk to me in person, like you'll sniff out the fake real quick.
You do. And it's one of those like, but the issue is, we'll dial back to something we said earlier, the lesser of two evils. It's the lesser of the people being fake.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have when we have candidates that are like, this is my platform. This is me. This is what I do. These are what I feel and believe. This is how I want to help people. I'm not trying to hornswoggle you. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm not trying to do anything other than what I actually say. We don't have a lot of that anymore. We have a lot of people who have hidden agendas. We have a lot of people who say one thing and didn't do another. We have a lot of people who are, oh yeah, we run on the Epstein file platform. And then when it comes to actually releasing them, we're gonna drag our feet on that. And we're gonna make it as hard as possible for people to get as little information as possible. That's a problem. They ran on transparency and now they're not being transparent. So many people run on transparency and then they're not transparent.
Yeah.
Well, they charge insurance. Well, then I would call the chiropractor's office and your insurance company about that. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, Artie, they do exist. They're just independents. They're the third party that we're told doesn't exist and we're not allowed to have. I'm not Democratic. I'm not Republican. I don't do party politics. I never have. That is one of the things I stand for on my platform with using my voice is I don't care which side of the aisle you on. There shouldn't be an aisle to begin with. It is all about what is your platform? What do you stand for? And how transparent are you willing to be? Because if you're not, oh, believe me, I will call you on it and be like, hey, let's have a conversation again. You said this. Why are you doing that? I will have you back on and I will hold you to it because if nobody else will hold you accountable, I will. Why do you think I'm doing this? It's to hold people accountable. It's to hold.
It creates a record, right? Like in this,
Exactly.
obviously in this context, you had the questions that you wanted to ask me. Some of the people who came on as well asked different questions, and we flushed out a lot of stuff like throughout the whole process, right? It took us left and right and up and down all over the place throughout this whole time. But nonetheless, you got answers out of me as well. And like you said, in a week, right, following Monday, if I pull it off, we'll have one conversation versus another, once they've figured it all out, right? Because it's one thing if I hit my number and then they don't count the signatures. It's another thing if I hit my number and they do count the signature, right? There's just so many variables right now.
Let's say you hit the number, you have a good enough buffer that even after they disqualify XYZ, you're still there. I mean, we're going to have one conversation, we're going to have another after, the 23rd did you get on the ballot or did you not get on the ballot? And what are you doing now that you're X or Y? A or B. There's going to be one of two conversations had. And I'm going to have the same conversation with Christopher because he's in the same thing. I mean, when we had a conversation and I talked to him on Thursday, he had less than 150 signatures to go. So he's right there. And he had to get over 5,000 signatures in order to be on there. And I was informed by the Democratic candidate that he had to get basically a little bit over 5,100 signatures and have them all count for him to be on the ballot. And that would be remarkable. And he would earn it. You know what? It would be remarkable. And he would earn it. And I hope to the goddesses he gets it. I hope you all get it. Why? Because you deserve it. Anybody who truly has a good idea, platform, voice, really should be able to get out to the right amount of people and get on those ballots. And the fact that they make it so hard is the problem.
Exactly. And like what you said, he needed 5,100 as a nonpartisan. Then because of this Arizona Independent Party option being recognized as a minority party, I think Chris then only needed less than 500, right? So his goal went down significantly because now he's being represented by a party and they're a minority one for right now. And who knows, in all reality, what's going to happen after all this as well anyways, because for sure laws and rules and regulations are going to change after all this because, oh my gosh, did we just get this close to losing all of our things, right? Being in charge and how do we, rectify all that?
Right.
But nonetheless, it's kind of like that whole thing of, whether you look at the Matrix, red pill, blue pill, we're finally at a point where everyone is acknowledging that something's up. And
everybody, even the people who never wanted to believe the conspiracy theories are finally admitting that maybe one or two of them might be real. Maybe one or two of the things I see going on might be real. And I really should believe my eyes and my own brain instead of just listening blindly to what they're telling me to listen to. Fox News.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to say that one because we all know Fox News. Yeah, the left and right, they're two sides of the same coin. You're right. That's the reason why red versus blue. Well, what about white? Because our flag is 3 colors. Shouldn't we have 3 parties?
At least, right? You talked about it earlier at one point in time. We had
Yeah.
over 20 different parties that were recognized, and then the two big parties just consolidated.
Uh-huh.
Right?
And that's the problem where, again, I think that the parties should start splitting back out and be like, you know what? No, they have three different types of Democratic parties based on which, because there's three different extremes. Cool. Great. You have one extreme, you have the other extreme, and you have the moderates. Same with the Republicans, because not every Republican is an extremist, but they've consolidated so much that it's either left wing or right wing extremism when it comes to those two parties now.
Yeah.
There's no middle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There's no middle. The middle is
Yep.
now independent.
True.
Says smart people don't like me. Of course, smart people don't like him because we can see through his bullshit.
Well, and it's the whole thing of, right, he says the quiet part out loud all the time now, and that has worked for him this entire time that he's been around, like, in office.
Mm-hmm.
He just says all that stuff out loud, and people go, that can't be, and we all chalk it up, and you hear everyone say this part, that's just Trump.
Yeah, that's just Trump being Trump. Well, that's just boys being boys. Anybody else understand the concept of how that's translated into not being good? Because boys being boys, I don't know if you've seen the viral video. They're singing the Backstreet Boys song where they're buried up to their necks in sand, and you got one guy in the front, and then you got 8 guys in the back, okay? And the guys sing it, and then they're in the back, and then the guys sing it, and then they're back. That is the correct definition of boys being boys, okay? Because they're like, what? You know what? I don't know why they decided to do that. It was fucking hilarious. That is boys being boys. Boys being boys is not saying the inner side thoughts out loud. It's not harming women and then getting away with it. It's not this. It's not that. It's not destroying her potential for his potential, because he's the one that destroyed her potential and they don't want to destroy his by sending him to jail. Things like that. That is not what it should be. But people, they just smush it off as, his reputation. She's fine. It just takes some therapy. She'll get over it. Let me tell you, as a victim, you don't just get over it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, but this, like, I'm glad I made it this long, but I've been fighting this cough thing, and I feel like now I'm getting into this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, like, we want to wrap, or because I don't know how much longer I got left in me with my throat.
And we're hitting 3 hours. 3 hours, as you can tell, my voice is starting to get scratchy too.
Yeah.
So why don't we plan on doing this? Yeah, so many people he's hurt. Why don't we plan on wrapping up? But we're absolutely going to touch base again in a week or
Yes.
so. And we are going to get you on again. We're going to find out how everything went. You know, we're going to find out if you got on the ballot, if you didn't, what your plans are, where you're going to go from
Yep.
there.
Sounds great. Really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Of course,
Yeah.
and thank you for making the time for me. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody saying yes and coming on and letting me be a voice for them.
Perfect. All right, Shadow. Looking forward to talking again.
Take care. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Yeah, I can't French when you attack. Like, you can see your restroom French. That's
There we go. Okay. Hey guys, so we had Michael Zepeda on. He is running for Arizona State Treasurer again. He is running as part of the Independent Party. We will have him back on probably in about 2 to 3 weeks just to see how everything went for him. If he got on the ballot, if he did, you know, what his next steps are. If he didn't, what his next plans are. Because it seems to me he's somebody who's not going to stop just because he didn't win or didn't get on the ballot this time. So fingers crossed to him. We're going to do everything we can to help him. If you're in Arizona or know anybody in Arizona, I will be making clips, send this video to them, send the video I already have posted of interviewing him to them, let them know. His website is mz4az.com. That's very easy. It's mz4az.com. Sign his petition to get on the ballot. That would be great. Again, everybody, we need U.S. Marshals to arrest Trump and ICE put everything back in place. So, Larry, here's part of the reason why I'm doing this. Our country was set up with a bunch of checks and balances. Our forefathers set our country up to balance out the federal government in case it ever became corrupt and it fell. In case we ever had a dictator take over, in case we ever fell under an authoritarian dictatorship, a regime like we are now. When that happens, it is in the states to take back their power. And if the states decide not to take back their power, the states decide not to do what's right for the people, and the states are not protecting the people, then it's on the people to take the state back from the power, which means it is on them to run for position of office. It is on us to take back our country. I've said before a few times, and I'll say it again. Guys, sometimes it only takes one voice to spark a revolution. So let's do a revolution. But that's all for me tonight. I enjoyed having everybody on. I appreciate everybody who came in and hung out and asked questions and was involved. I hope to see you again on the flip side. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm interviewing David Redkey. He is also running for Arizona. He is running for Congressional District 1. So, like, follow, share. I will see you all later. Take care, Mike.